boy was summoned to another world. Nori was a loner who barely spoke, but before they departed, the goddess granted each student a special ability. As soon as he arrived in the other world, Nori was sent back to the goddess's realm. There, he received another ability and was summoned again. Now, he was tied up in a laboratory, used as an experiment. The same thing happened over and over again. Nori possessed countless extremely powerful abilities. This world was supposed to have 3 heroes, but now it has 4. A girl calls his name twice, repeating Inori, then a hand gently touches his face underwater. Holding him, she stares closely while they float. He wonders who this woman in front of him could be. Suddenly, a large amount of blood splashes everywhere. He questions if she stabbed him and why she is crying. Then, he wonders how she could know his name. Scene change. His hand trembles while holding a manga. In the classroom, he watches other students talking and laughing. His name is revealed to be Inori Takafuji, 17 years old. Looking aside, he wonders if it was all just a dream. Gripping the manga, he concludes that nothing seems out of the ordinary. But he soon realizes he was completely wrong to think that. Then, everyone in the room is engulfed by symbols and starts floating. Caught in an intense light, he screams desperately as he's transported. Now elsewhere, he stands up confused, asking what happened. Looking at the sky, they see a massive light and understand nothing. He then realizes that the classroom has simply vanished completely. Scattered around, the others shout in confusion, wanting to know where they are. One of his classmates yells, asking what kind of weird place this is. Just then, a woman appears floating and asks everyone to calm down. She introduces herself to the group, claiming to actually be a goddess. Shocked, the students repeat the word goddess, disbelieving what they hear. She explains that they are all being summoned to another world. Continuing the explanation, she says they will be heroes meant to defeat the Demon King. Some of them seem pretty excited by the idea of being heroes. The goddess then reveals that their souls will be sent to the kingdom of Hygen. She finishes by saying, "It is a nation of swords and sorcery." Clenching his hand, he realizes this is just like the stories he's read. Extending her hand, the goddess announces she will give them a final gift. She touches the head of each student to grant the boon. Upon touching him, she says that now everyone has a power. Wishing them luck, she finally sends them to the kingdom. Opening his eyes, he finds himself in a completely different place. Now, in the throne room, a woman announces that she managed to summon the heroes. Celebrating their arrival, the nobles shout that they are finally saved. Suddenly, an older man shouts, ordering everyone to be silent. Sitting on the throne, the king observes all the newcomers quietly. Rising, the king welcomes them with the utmost gratitude. Then he introduces himself as Risen Hygen, the sovereign of that kingdom. To everyone's surprise, he kneels and begs for their help. He then formally requests that they defeat the Demon King. Silently, Inori just observes the grandiose reception they are receiving. Desperate, one of the classmates asks His Majesty to please stand up. Next, a classmate asks if there is any way to return to their own world. At this, a woman steps forward and says she can answer that question. Introducing herself as Fana, the saint, she confirms that there is indeed a way. She explains that in 1 month, the full moon will allow the journey back. Therefore, anyone who doesn't want to fight can wait in the palace and leave. He finds it strange, remarking that it seems like they are just tourists. One of the girls asks if a month here would be a month in their world. Fana denies it, explaining that the summoning doesn't affect time in their world. Suspicious, he wonders what the catch is because it sounds too good. Then she asks if anyone wishes to return, saying she won't stop them. But immediately after, she asks everyone to reconsider their decision. With clasped hands, she begs them to save the kingdom from the Lord of Darkness. He realizes this is the moment for the hero with main character energy to step up. Observing his classmates, he concludes there is no one like that in his class. Apologizing, the class representative asks for time for them to think. Hearing the request, the king remains silent for a brief moment. Inori thinks his classmates are being cautious, and he agrees. Agreeing, the king gives them a month to decide what to do. Then, one of the students excitedly asks if he heard the word banquet. He didn't expect to taste otherworldly food so quickly. Already seated at the table, he says he is curious about the fantasy ingredients. Suddenly, he notices the floor has the same circle from the classroom. Standing in the circle, he wonders if they are using magic to move them. He also wonders if this is how they gather ingredients around the world. One of his classmates turns and calls out to him, getting his attention. Then the classmate asks why he is the only one left behind. Being left alone, he is completely surprised by what happened. Returning to the empty place, he wonders if he's having déjà vu. A voice welcomes him, saying that this is the Rift of Souls. Right after, the goddess he saw before reappears looking a bit confused. Seeing the goddess, he greets her again very casually. She asks if he wasn't just there a few minutes ago, and he confirms it. The goddess was confused. She asked how this could have happened. He asked if he was being summoned somewhere else again. She confirmed it. She told him she had to give him another gift. Those were the rules. She reached out and touched his head, granting him a new power. She wished him luck and departed, leaving him complaining about how irresponsible she was. He arrived in a dark place. The magic circle looked different here. He looked closer and noticed the pattern had changed completely. Suddenly, he found himself tied up and gagged in a dark chair. An old man in front of him announced that the summoning was finally complete. Another man smiled and suggested they call him Test Subject 12. He pulled the doctor aside, saying he sensed the subject possessed a demonic eye. He couldn't believe it. Did that guy really just call him a test subject? He stared down the dark corridor, bracing himself for whatever was coming next. The two men grabbed their tools and announced they would start the experiment slowly. It dawned on him that he was dealing with Frankenstein and Igor lookalikes. The doctor brought a scalpel closer, saying he wanted to see the demonic eye. A narration explained that humans summoned from other worlds gain powers. This power manifested as a demonic eye upon crossing into their realm. Holding his tools, the doctor said their job was to prove that theory. He realized then that the demonic eye was the gift he had received. The doctor showed him a symbol on his hand and tried to hypnotize him into sleeping. A magic circle rushed toward his face. The doctor was shocked when the hypnosis failed. He wondered if that was really an advanced version of the spell. The assistant screamed desperately, drawing the doctor's attention back to the test subject. It was revealed that he had two distinct eyes, one for normal vision and one for magic circles. The doctor screamed, completely shocked and disbelieving what he was seeing. The assistant was thrilled, claiming they had struck a gold mine. They decided to proceed anyway and moved in to start the experiment without hypnosis. Realizing they were about to cut him open, he yelled that this was torture, not an experiment. He struggled in the chair, knowing he had to use his eyes to escape. He used his power, and a magic circle formed beneath his chair. The sudden bright light paralyzed the two scientists. They couldn't react. As the light engulfed him, he remarked that the timing was perfect. He returned to the rift and faced the goddess again, taking her by surprise. She asked why he was back, and he simply said it just happened. He looked up and asked if she honestly didn't know what was causing this. The goddess denied knowing, explaining that he was the first person to ever experience this. Her words registered just as the magic circle transported him again. The scene changed, revealing a new world with a different style of building. There, he met a noble girl and a woman who appeared to be an elf. The elf praised the girl, saying she had summoned a humanoid monster. Irritated by the comment, he asked exactly who she was calling a monster. They confused him further by trying to force a servitude pact using a needle. He explained that another magic circle activated just in time to save him. He returned to the rift, smiling as he announced his arrival. The exhausted goddess groaned, asking if he was really back again. He asked if she had figured out why he kept getting sent to different places. She explained that basically, summonings seek out humans with incredibly strong souls. She revealed that his soul was extraordinarily strong, a rare case. He didn't get it. He asked how that was possible since he was just an average student. She clarified that soul strength was connected to the strength of one's ego. According to her, this wouldn't stop until he made a hero's pact. He appeared in another world, standing in front of a large building with many windows. A girl there noticed he possessed a skill called Skill Thief. He looked at the girl and thought she was actually pretty cute. He explained that on his fourth summoning, he received yet another gift. He agreed to make a hero's pact with the girl, trying to stay in that world. But at the very last second, the summoning circle activated again. He bounced through various worlds, getting summoned to the strangest places. He recounted his fifth time where he was summoned using black magic. Because of that, he ended up receiving a gift of the same dark nature. After that, he landed in a dark, completely destroyed world. By his sixth summoning, he was transported somewhere else again. The demons there hailed him, and he became a demon lord. When he returned to the rift, he was surrounded by a new energy. The goddess commented that he had become absurdly powerful from all the summonings. He confirmed it was true while staring at his own hand. She said she had a feeling the next time would be the last. Before he left, she told him she would combine his abilities as a final gift. He was summoned into a castle where a voice welcomed the heroes. He realized that in this new world, he had become a hero once again. He looked to his side and saw other students, wondering who they were. He was confused in the castle and discovered his name was now Ryuto Shinzaki. One of the girls, Tamaki, called out the other two by their names. The three of them stood in the middle of the hall, staring at each other in confusion. Immediately after, the other girl, Aoi, called out to them too. The king watched the four newcomers closely from his throne. He then said the legend spoke of three heroes being summoned. Standing apart from the group, Inori realized what was happening in the room. Understanding that the others knew each other, he started connecting the dots. It dawned on him that he had been summoned as a fourth hero. Standing before the throne, the four summoned heroes waited for the king to explain. Pointing at the group, the king demanded to know what this meant. Were those three heroes and Ryuto just a civilian? Confused, the king insisted that was impossible. It had never happened before. Just as the king addressed the heroes, someone interrupted. The princess stepped forward, claiming responsibility for summoning them. She stared down the new arrivals with an intense gaze. Seeing this, he immediately pegged her as the arrogant princess stereotype. Stepping forward, she welcomed them to the kingdom. The princess explained that this world contained humans, demi-humans, and demons. The demon lord had established a nation and invaded them. Consequently, they requested aid, asking other kingdoms to summon heroes. She noted that only royalty could perform the summoning ritual. Laying out her plan, she declared she wanted an army of trained heroes. With a smug smile, she asked if her plan isn't just incredible. He wondered how many she intended to summon, hoping he wouldn't end up as cannon fodder. They were told they needed intense training to defeat the demon lord. "Excuse me," another hero interrupted to ask your highness a question. "Was there any way for them to return home?" Bluntly, the princess replied no. There was no way back. She added they should be grateful, as not everyone gets to be a hero. Not understanding why he couldn't return, he already missed the kingdom of Hygen. Moving on, the king asked to confirm their heroic blessings. A hooded figure approached, holding a stone tablet. After touching it, Ryuto's blessing was revealed. Limit break. Next, Aoi's blessing showed as barrier conjuration. Tamaki touched the slate, revealing mana affinity. When his turn came, his blessing was revealed as detection. Seeing the result, the king confirmed he did indeed have a blessing. He noted that his sounded like a utility skill, not combat-focused. Next, the four underwent physical and magical aptitude tests. Ryuto excelled physically, displaying monstrous strength. With one blow, he smashed through multiple pieces of wood. In the magic test, Aoi and Tamaki showed great aptitude. Using their magical capabilities, both girls did very well. As for him, he discovered he had magic power but couldn't control it. During the physical test, he felt weaker than he was back on Earth. Accepting defeat, he remembered the other three were the actual heroes. That night, he was invited to Ryuto's room to talk. Looking around, he realized it was much bigger than his own. One colleague remarked that he shouldn't be there since he was just a normal guy. Hearing this, Inori pointed out he was sitting right next to them. Trying to cover, one girl claimed she wasn't worried about him. He realized she was terrible at hiding her true feelings. Ryuto decided he should stay. Detection might be useful later. He noticed the heroes had differing opinions about him. Ryuto stated he would need Aoi's protection in combat. Without arguing, Aoi simply agreed. While the three talked, he just observed the lively group of heroes. Tamaki then asked if they thought they should really stay in this place. Thinking for a moment, Ryuto prepared his answer. He replied absolutely. They had been treated very well so far. Just then, Inori interrupted, telling everyone to be quiet. Showing them his notebook, he warned that they were being watched. Smiling, he explained his detection blessing was responsible. Thinking about his blessing, he realized it had its own value. Detection allowed him to sense living beings through walls. Right then, he warned them he could sense someone behind the room's door. The others remembered they had dismissed all the maids attending the quarters. Inori concluded the person outside was a stranger, or someone who sneaked back. Writing in his notebook, he asked Aoi to create a sound barrier. Reading the note, the other three heroes were shocked. Agreeing to the request, Aoi nodded, ready to act. Clasping her hands, she began concentrating energy to create the barrier. With some effort, she managed to erect the barrier around them. She warned that it was working but wouldn't last long. Thanking her, Ryuto said her ability was incredible, which made her happy. Watching this, he wondered if they were seriously flirting at a time like this. Worried, Tamaki asked why anyone would spy on them. Ryuto explained their blessings could be a threat in the wrong hands. Tamaki yelled that it was unfair, since they were summoned without permission. Inori intervened, saying he thought the kingdom was desperate. He continued, stating there were many indications the kingdom was bankrupt. Using his detection, he pointed out the king overexposed himself, and there were few guards. Tamaki pushed back, saying the food seemed expensive and tasty. She commented it was well seasoned, even if not fancy. Disagreeing, he said the food was horrible, not delicious. Ryuto questioned the rooms, noting they were too small for heroes. He explained he was noticing all this because of his past experience. He suggested they might need to leave the kingdom depending on what happened. The problem, he noted, would be finding a way back to their world. Tamaki remembered the princess said there was no way back, but she could be lying. Inori concluded the situation wouldn't be easy, as they were the kingdom's hope. Ryuto decided that for now, it was best to go with the flow. Suddenly, Tamaki approached him, leaving him confused. Noticing his eye, she asked why it was yellow and strange. Covering his face, he regretted forgetting his different colored eyes. Trying to disguise it, he said, everyone has a secret to hide. Smiling, Ryuto said he was just going through an edgy phase a bit late. He realized Ryuto viewed him as a kid wearing colored contacts. Thinking a bit, he concluded it was a convincing persona to play. Sitting on the bed, he concentrated to remember what skills the eyes granted. Remembering the status window, he visualized it to make it appear. Analyzing the numbers, he realized they seemed high, but lacked a reference point. Remembering the test, He questioned why he did so poorly with stats like these. Setting that aside, he decided to verify his skills. The window showed he had Skill Stealer and Black Magic. Seeing he also had Detection, he remembered he gained everything during the summonings. Finally, he recalled that in the third summoning, he became a demon vampire. Baring his fangs, he understood the invocation transformed him into a demonic vampire. Reading the ability description, he realized his stats were reduced by 90% during the day. That's why he felt weak in the sun and hated the garlic at dinner. Remembering meeting the girls, he realized something strange about himself. He had been more attracted to their blood than their looks. He hadn't noticed it happening because he was busy using Detection outside. Deciding to learn more, he resolved to start analyzing each of his skills. Thinking back on his summons, he remembered the hardships he faced. He realized those random summons had actually gifted him a lot of abilities. His first skill, Detection, let him sense nearby creatures. To test another one, he grabbed a lit candlestick. He discovered a skill that used mana to craft weapons from any material. Focusing his energy, he saw it was called Create Weapon. He used it for the first time and managed to make a small knife. Next, he checked his physical skills, like his Demon Eye of Vision. The description explained it specialized in all things visual, but he had no clue how his Demon Eye of Magic circles worked. It said the skill moved a viewed magic circle into his pupil. He didn't really get it, so he decided to revisit it after learning this world's magic. Looking at the list, he noticed many skills he still didn't know, but the description for Blood Drain was dead simple. It let him turn victims into ghouls or even vampire servants. Extending his arm, he realized he could turn the dead into familiars using his blood. Reading on, he found he could gain memories and skills by draining victims. Besides creating servants, he could steal their abilities and memories. Lying in bed, he understood he could only do all this at night. First things first, he needed to get used to his new body. The next day, a woman introduced herself to the group as Efiana Echi. She announced she'd be their physical combat instructor. He was surprised to see a female knight commander in a fantasy kingdom. He wondered if she was actually good, or just what the kingdom could afford. Efiana told the girls they also needed to learn basic physical combat. Observing the group, she noted that many didn't seem to need strength training. Hearing that, he thought it was pretty obvious for heroes. Right after, Ryuto's blessing was shown as Limit Break. Then, Tamaki's blessing was revealed as Mana Affinity. Finally, Aoi's blessing was shown to be Barrier Conjuration. Seeing their stats, he realized they were literally superhumans. He couldn't compete. The instructor told the three heroes they could choose specs after the basics. As for Inori, she said he'd undergo intense physical training. He started doing push-ups to meet her required military standard. Without rest, he continued the exercise while she watched him closely. Exhausted, he complained that the day had become a nightmare because he was a vampire. Telling him to hurry up, she guaranteed she'd personally supervise his success. Feeling dizzy, he worried he wouldn't have the energy to escape when the time came. Suddenly, the first princess appeared and greeted everyone. Impatient, he complained about seeing that annoying princess again. Then he noticed another girl and wondered who she was. Noting the maid, he deduced the new girl must also be royalty. Analyzing her, he thought her smile looked fake and forced. Surprised, the instructor greeted both highnesses, saying she hadn't expected their visit. He realized the new girl was also a kingdom princess. The first princess told them to carry on. She was just there to observe. The other princess stated they should feel honored by her presence. Not surprised, he figured she'd say something like that. Then, the other girl approached and said it was a pleasure to meet him. She introduced herself as the second princess of that great kingdom of the rising sun. Confusing him, she said she could be called his daytime tutor. Moving to a palace room, she explained the training with the commander. She continued, warning that he'd have a private lesson with her in the afternoon. Feeling out of place, he realized he was the black sheep of that group. Meanwhile, the other three heroes received a lesson from the first princess in another room. She shouted that she had no time to waste on non-heroes. Determined, Inori promised that one day he'd make her regret that. Announcing the class was starting, the second princess positioned herself at the front. But first, Inori raised his hand, asking to ask a question. With a smile, she allowed him to proceed with his query. He asked if, being the second, she was younger than the first princess. Denying the assumption, she revealed it was actually the exact opposite. She explained that her younger sister became the heir for complicated reasons. Hearing the answer, Inori just closed his eyes for a brief moment. He then turned his attention back to the book on his desk. Continuing the class, she began explaining the kingdom's foundation. She said it all started with a sorceress who defeated the demon lord. Because of the founder, the kingdom's society ended up being female-centered. She revealed that for generations, queens had always been the monarchs. Meanwhile, kings ruled alongside them, but only as regents. She added that queens could simply strip them of their power. And so, she taught him the fundamentals of history and magic. Noticing he had fallen asleep in class, the princess just watched him with the book. Later that night, the full moon illuminated the castle where he stayed. Back in his room, he noted down what the princess had said about the classes. Then, he started reading the magic book she had lent him. Even though he slept in class, he managed to borrow the book from her. Looking through the book, he found a perfect magic circle for his new experiments. Activating his special ability, he focused on his yellow eye for the test. His intention was to save the magic circle in his eye to activate later. But after the attempt, he realized absolutely nothing happened in the room. Not giving up, he kept trying with other magic circles from the book. After several failures, he closed the book, seeing that nothing had worked. Suddenly, he seemed to have a new idea and paused for a moment. He wondered what would happen if he used his other eye. Sitting at a table, he prepared to put this new theory into practice. Using a quill, he started drawing a different symbol on paper. Using his right eye, he concentrated on drawing a complex symbol. Remembering the past, he visualized advanced hypnosis magic being used. He recalled it was the doctor who gave him these very eyes. Holding the paper, he confirmed he managed to replicate the drawing perfectly. Staring fixedly at the paper, he prepared for the next step of the test. Then he focused his left eye on the drawing to try and absorb the pattern. Seeing his eye react, he showed an expression of surprise and expectation. To test if it worked, he grabbed a bell and started ringing it. A maid then entered the room, saying she was answering his call. Sitting on the bed, he asked if the maid could do him a favor. Activating his left eye, he aimed directly at her for the test. The magic hit the maid, who froze in place from the effect. The magic pattern became visible in the maid's eyes for an instant. Under the magic's effect, her eyes changed, indicating the spell's success. To confirm control, he brought his hand close to her face to test. Inori asked the maid a question about her underwear. He heard her say it was black. Activating his other vision, he confirmed the maid was telling the truth. With his hand on his chin, he concluded the magic worked with the eye. Then he paused, having a new realization about his eye's power. He questioned if the eye could only memorize magic from his original world. Eyes on the maid, he wonders. Is that the only magic he can use? Too soon to assume that. He decides to run another test. His right eye had stored the magic circles during his transfer between worlds. He focuses on one, saving the magic pattern into his yellow eye. Circle stored, he activates the powerful teleportation spell. He vanishes from the room instantly. The magic is a complete success. He reappears in a forest near the palace. Just as planned, he gets the synergy now. Red eye to see, yellow eye to teleport. Now he can leave the palace at will. He takes in the nighttime forest. Near a broken wall, he decides to test his other available abilities. Touching the stone, he activates one of his black magic circles. Magic active, he seizes control of the wall's stone fragments. His dark magic grants total control over inanimate materials. He moves objects at will, even storing them within his own shadow. He discovers a limitation. Controlled objects don't affect things outside his control. He releases the stone, resolving the issue, and lets it drop. Sitting on a rock, he reflects on the downsides of this new power. Time for another test. His shadow begins to shift beneath him. Using his shadow ability, he sinks right into the ground. This power lets him use shadows to traverse the terrain. Traveling underground, he resurfaces from within a large tree. Looking back, he realizes the shadow space inside is vast. Holding a stone, he prepares to test if the ability works as expected. Activating the power, he creates a new weapon from scratch. Holding the newly minted sword, he decides that's enough for now. Sword in hand, he closes his eyes in total concentration. Recalling the past, the scene shifts to his training in the castle courtyard. During training, his eye had captured every move the Knight Commander made. Back in the forest, he prepares to replicate every movement he saw. Wielding the sword, he executes the memorized strikes with total perfection. He practices intensely, repeating the copied movements as many times as possible. Exhausted, leaning on his sword, he feels something finally shift. Suddenly, a system window appears with a notification. The message confirms he finally obtained level 1 swordsmanship. His theory proven, he prepares for the next step, leveling up. Just then, a noise from the forest grabs his full attention. An enormous monster suddenly bursts through the trees. Surprised, he wonders what kind of monster it is. Using his ability, he identifies it as a bird and sees its stats are incredibly high. Then he realizes this creature's feathers are used in his mattress. Hidden in a bush, he wonders how anyone hunts monsters this strong. Scanning for weaker targets, he spots other creatures in the dark woods, but analyzing their stats, He sees even they are stronger than him. Sitting on a rock, he reflects. Are the monsters strong, or is he just weak? He concludes that the forest monsters are just too powerful. With his current stats, he decides to head back. He couldn't survive a group attack. Back at the palace, firm footsteps echo through the corridors at night. Someone is walking with purpose, the sound echoing in the sleeping castle's silence. Lantern in hand, Commander Efiana lights her way down the hall. Encountering the princess, she addresses Her Highness with a warning tone. She states the palace is safe, but walking unguarded at night is dangerous. Calling her by name, the princess says she needs a word. She asks why artifacts aren't being used in Inori's training. Efiana explains the rule applies to everyone. They only use training weapons. The princess questions this, suggesting artifacts should be introduced soon. Hearing the question, Efiana stares back with a very serious expression. She argues the heroes aren't ready yet and would become too dependent. To avoid this, she insists it's best to fully prepare them first. Faced with the commander's response, the princess listens in silence. Smiling, the princess admits she understands and was perhaps too hasty with the commander. Efiana just stares at her for a moment, expression grim. Then the commander says her smile has lost its former shine. Hearing those words, the princess turns away in silence. Turning her back, she replies she hadn't noticed that change in herself. But before she leaves, Efiana asks for her opinion on the first princess. Looking at a painting, she describes her sister as talented and worthy of the crown. Efiana asks if she truly believes that, and the princess questions the implication. Efiana warns that while safe, the palace is full of spies. The princess retorts, warning that the kingdom doesn't forgive those who speak against the heir. With a slight bow, the commander just silently observes the princess. She notes the concern, but asks the princess not to worry. A few days later, Inori watched the other heroes training in the courtyard. Ryuto always seemed comfortable holding a sword. He advances and strikes, following the swordsman's path. Meanwhile, Tamaki spent her time learning to use a staff, but she used it as a blunt weapon, not for casting magic. Showing interest in archery, Aoi focused on bow training. An exception, she could conjure barriers for protection while aiming. Inori just watched his colleague's progress. Analyzing the situation, he saw Ryuto as the melee specialist. Tamaki was the long-range attacker, also good at destruction. With Aoi as the agile shooter, he concluded the group was well-balanced. Meanwhile, his own combat training had started just 3 days prior. During training, he continued learning precision dagger throwing. His training also included stealth movement and disarming traps. He realizes they were trying to turn him into the group's scout. Later that night, he teleports back to the dark forest. Standing there, he understands the significance of this training trend. He realizes he'll have to level up his unique abilities alone, in his free time. Throwing the dagger into the air, he controls its movement with magic. Practicing remote control, he makes the weapon hit several targets in sequence. After concentrating, he finally releases full control over the dagger. At his command, the dagger surges forward and embeds itself deep in a tree. Looking at the result, he reflects that he can't use or learn new skills. He wonders if the curse will disappear when he levels up. Focused on leveling, he uses magic to enter a tree's shadow. Suddenly, the heavy footsteps of a giant creature echo through the forest. Nearby, that same bird monster is feeding quietly under the moonlight. The creature stops for a moment, observing its surroundings on high alert. Emerging from the tree's shadow, he prepares a surprise attack. He advances and lands a direct hit, making the creature scream in pain. Attack successful. He just watches the result of his plan. Readying his mana threads, he prepares to unleash his new ability. Utilizing his web, he instantly ensnares the monster in a trap. Caught in the threads, the creature struggles but cannot break free. He commands the monster to look directly into his eye for the upcoming attack. Activating hypnosis, a magic circle manifests in his eye, ready to take effect. As the spell takes hold, the magic pattern reflects in the monster's gaze. Seeing his plan succeed, he smiles with satisfaction. Approaching the trapped beast, he prepares to finish his combo attack. Without hesitation, he steps forward and delivers a final blow to the immobilized creature. Holding the creature, he knows his magic cannot control living beings, but now that it's dead, he can finally control it with his ability. Then, he pulls the creature's body into his own shadow. He stores the freshly defeated monster's body inside. With that done, he confirms the experiment was a total success. Now, within his shadow, he can consume the monster without worrying about prying eyes. Seeing a chance to raise his stats, he prepares for the next phase. His ability allows him to level up by draining the life of creatures. Emerging from the shadows, he returns to the forest to continue his nightly hunt. Hidden behind a tree, he observes another creature sleeping nearby. Determined to hunt to his limit, he readies himself to attack the next target. Afterward, he planned to use teleportation to head straight back to his room. Once back, he could finally rest in his palace bed. This became his secret. exhausting nightly routine. The next morning, the maid Nala wakes him up with a smile on her face. As he says good morning, he recalls the rule he set for using hypnosis. Yet, over the past few weeks, he had hypnotized her to learn more about the kingdom. That's how he discovered the queen had been unable to conceive a child for a long time. This was a major issue. The kingdom's succession depended on a female heir. To make matters worse, many royal family members died young due to illness. Fearing the end of their lineage, the kingdom accepted a noblewoman as a concubine. She was chosen to bear the king's child. That child was named Princess Aliyah. Her name meant direct successor to the crown. Growing up as a beloved princess, Aliyah had the full support of the people. But that very same year, the queen finally managed to give birth to a daughter. Naming the new princess Amanda, the kingdom rejoiced. Her name meant the beloved, and she soon demonstrated her power. The queen looked upon her daughter with a huge smile. Deeply loved, Amanda inherited magic power directly from her mother. Meanwhile, Aliyah was removed from her royal succession classes. Upon turning 7, Amanda was officially prepared for succession. She became the first princess, the legitimate heir to the throne. The entire kingdom celebrated the grand announcement. From afar, Aliyah watched the celebrations for her younger sister. On that day, Aliyah's name finally lost all its meaning. Forgotten by the people and abandoned, she was cast aside by everyone. Aliyah was forced to live a life of total solitude within the castle. Seeing her situation, Inori thought she was just like him, bearing no expectations. Suddenly, the princess calls out to him, telling him to finally wake up from his nap. She lectures that knowledge is power, and sleeping won't help him learn. The princess then mentions she heard about his physical combat training. She comments that he seems proficient in what he's being taught, but Inori replies that he can't use most of this world's magic. He calls himself a rare case, since even commoners use magic. The princess retorts that the commander is a very busy woman. She adds that Efiana wouldn't waste her time if she didn't see potential in him. Firmly, the princess declares her belief that he can become strong. Hearing her words, Inori just stares at her silently for a moment. Calling to him, she asks him to follow her somewhere else. The scene shifts to a secret passage opening in a wall. Descending a stone staircase, he follows the princess along the secret path. Looking around, he seems a bit confused by the unfamiliar location. Before them, a giant gate opens, revealing an intense light. Once inside the room, she tells him his training will continue here. Then she confronts him, saying that people call him a weakling. Looking at him, she demands he tell her something very important. With an intense expression, she asks if he isn't ashamed of his situation. Totally surprised, he wonders again what got into her today. Since the turn of events, the princess had always hidden her true emotions. She hid them so well that people in the kingdom called her the doll princess. But now, Inori realized she was vastly different from that nickname. Seeing the change, he notes she is no longer the reserved princess. Turning, she begins walking into the massive training hall. Once inside, he observes her standing in the center of the immense space. She warns him that at this rate he will be exiled from the castle. Showing surprise, he doesn't understand what she means. She reveals that the queen stated she has no obligation to raise failures. Rebutting the accusation, he claims his detection ability is useful. She agrees, but insists he doesn't apply himself like the others. She warns that he needs to take his destiny seriously and do his best. Hearing her advice, he stares at her silently for a moment. She recalled seeing him in class, always sleeping at his desk, uninterested, but in truth, he was training hard every night, far from her sight. Hearing her lecture, Inori responds that he is trying his best. He explains that he is not talented like the others or intelligent like her. With a somber expression, the princess seems to hate his answer. He tries checking the door, but she informs him no one can hear them from outside. He asks how to open the door, but she doesn't reply. The princess just stares at him with an incredibly serious, intense gaze. Suddenly, she speeds toward him, ready to attack. She lands a direct hit on Inori. He's left completely confused about what just happened. She tells him he's in a privileged position, but refuses to evolve. She warns him that he must survive, even if it brings shame. Seeing her attitude, he realizes the doll princess is gone. In her place stands a tall woman with an imposing bearing. She yells at him to take control of his own life once and for all. Smiling, he lets out a small chuckle at the situation. Then he bursts out laughing, leaving the princess totally confused by his reaction. Praising her, he calls her an incredible woman, embarrassing the princess. He admits he underestimated her, never expecting her to be so strong. She then asks if he is mocking her with those sudden words. Telling her not to worry, he says he possesses a strong survival instinct, adding that it's just like her. occurs, he leaves her completely surprised by the revelation. Then she admits that she was the one who underestimated him all this time. She realizes that for some reason, he seems much stronger than before. Thanking her for the truth, he says he needs to figure out his next move. Back in the library, he knew he couldn't get expelled if he wanted to keep gathering information. Moving to the training fields, he continues practicing with his training dagger. His plan was to show them his strength, avoiding exile from the castle, but he was informed there wouldn't be any dungeon training for a while. A knight shouts, announcing that today's training session is over. Decided to act, he resolves to have a talk with Commander Iche. Approaching her, he asks for a private word. Once in her office, she warns that granting his request would be very difficult. He asks if she also thinks his ability is useless. He tries to justify himself, but she interrupts, saying that's not it. In fact, she reveals she doesn't consider his ability useless at all. She then extends an unexpected invitation for him to join the knights. Faced with the proposal, he's completely speechless, just staring at the commander. She explains that his ability would be highly useful in various future situations. However, she warns that his words lack the power to convince anyone. She suggests he work for the kingdom as a soldier instead. That way, he would give the kingdom a good reason not to exile him. Analyzing the proposal, he knew joining the knights would trap him there. Standing in line with the other soldiers, he understood this wasn't just any offer. He thanked her for the opportunity, but said he needed time to think it over. She agreed, telling him to find her if he ever needed help. Inori then asked if that help applied after he was exiled. The commander just stared out the window, dodging the question. Instead, she simply said she might be able to help with his current situation. A few days passed. The scene shifted to a bookshelf in the library. While dozing on a desk, he overheard that heroes from another nation were visiting the palace. The princess confirmed there would be a celebratory party to welcome them. She mentioned there would be no classes. He asked why nobody told him. With a smile, she replied, they didn't see the need to notify someone who just sleeps all day. Lying on the table, he got the message. Nobody wanted him around at the party. Outside, a crowd celebrated the arrival of the kingdom's new guest heroes. Flags and banners were raised for the grand celebration in the city. Watching the party from his room window, he stayed silent for a moment. He commented that the kingdom was overdoing it, considering they didn't seem to have any money. Lying on his bed, he thought they were spending way too much on this whole celebration. Despite thinking about going to the party, he immediately discarded the idea. He imagined having to explain his existence to the officials. Thinking it would be too annoying, he threw himself back onto the bed. Even though he didn't like it, he prepared to spy on the party using his skill. Activating his special eye, he began to use his remote viewing ability. His vision traveled through the palace corridors toward the grand party. Focusing on the hall entrance, his sight finally reached its destination. Inside, he found Princess Aaliyah and Amanda in the hall. He immediately noticed his teacher looked stunning in her party dress. Even so, he realized her smile still seemed quite forced. His vision panned over the table, showing tons of celebratory dishes. Back in his room, his stomach rumbled just remembering the food. He realized the maid, Nala, hadn't been lying about the situation. Remembering their conversation, she said these parties were the cause of the crisis. Obsessed with luxury, the queen completely ignored everything the king said. Suddenly, something at the party caught his attention, making him look closer. Seeing a group of people, he deduced they were the heroes from the neighboring nation. Observing the first girl, he noted they had also come in a trio. The second one seemed introverted. He thought they'd get along. Smiling, he found the third member of the group quite unique. Seeing his hair, he wondered if the guy was also Japanese. Using his skill, he identified the hero's name, thinking it sounded pretty heroic. Noticing the scene, he decided to use his ability to lip-read them. Suddenly, the hero shouted, demanding they bring Inori Takafuji to him. Glaring angrily, the guy yelled that he was challenging him to a duel. Back in the hall, the princess announced that Mr. Inori had finally arrived. The other heroes watched his arrival with surprise. Now on site, he confirmed he'd been called right after the party ended. Repeating the challenge, the hero pointed at him and declared a duel. Watching the situation, the princess just stood silently between the two of them. From afar, the other heroes just observed the scene, understanding nothing. The neighboring hero group also watched the scene in total silence. Not understanding the reason, he asked why a duel, of all things. The hero shouted that it was to prove he wasn't worthy. Confused, Inori asked about the goddess, but the guy screamed at him. He said he knew Inori had been summoned and had met her. Inori remembered when he first met the goddess during the summoning. The image of the goddess floating in front of him became clear in his memory, but Inori didn't understand what that had to do with the situation. Embarrassed, the hero revealed he had confessed to the goddess they met. Remembering the request, he clenched his fist tightly, recalling her words. He shouted that the goddess said she would think about it if he defeated Inori. Grabbing his collar, Inori finally understood what the goddess was planning. He realized she was waiting for him to solve this problem for her. Irritated by the situation, he swore he'd make her pay next time. At that, the other heroes asked what this white space they mentioned was. The other group also asked about the goddess, understanding none of the backstory. Seeing the confusion, he realized they had been summoned in different ways. For now, he decided to pretend he didn't know anything about it either. So, he said he didn't know what it was about, but he accepted the duel. Seeing that he accepted, the hero celebrated, showing he was very excited about the fight. Before starting, Inori said they needed to decide the format of the duel. He explained that he didn't have a superhuman body or a combat blessing. Hearing the explanation, the other heroes seemed to agree with his logic. Inori then said it would be shameful to take advantage of someone at a disadvantage. Indignant, the hero yelled that he would prove it by accepting any challenge Inori proposed. Seeing the provocation worked, all the other heroes were totally shocked by the scene. With a smile, Inori proposed the duel take place in a dungeon near the palace. He then suggested that the first one to defeat the first-floor boss would win. Crossing his arms, the hero said it was a deal, and accepted the proposal immediately. Worried, Ryuto whispered that Inori's ability wouldn't help against a boss, but calmly, Inori replied not to worry because he had a plan. Deciding to duel the next day, the hero waved goodbye. The next day, the queen waited on her throne for the duel's result. After the duel, Inori was kneeling in the throne room in front of the queen. Demanding an explanation, she said he was pulverized even after changing the rules of the duel. During the duel, Masayoshi advanced with incredible swordsmanship, defeating all the monsters. Reaching the end, he finally found the great boss of that first dungeon floor. Standing no chance, the boss was completely dominated by the hero's strength. Sword in hand, he posed victoriously next to the monster he defeated. On the other hand, Inori used his detection ability to map the dungeon. He sneaked past enemies, traps, and even the boss itself. Objectively, he recognized that the duel ended in his crushing defeat. The queen then said she had already ignored his flaws and laziness, all because the commander firmly believed in the potential he had. Declaring her decision, she said she could never forgive his performance. Beside the throne, Princess Aaliyah heard everything in complete silence. Shouting his name, the queen finally banished him from the kingdom forever. But hearing the sentence, he just gave a slight smirk. Taken aback by his answer, the queen didn't understand what he was getting at. Inori then asked how, exactly, his defeat had harmed the kingdom. Angrily, she replied that he had lost a duel, and it was obvious. Masayoshi then addressed the queen, interrupting their argument. Inori admitted he lost the race, but insisted that wasn't the most important part. He revealed that the duel's wager held great value for everyone. Seeing his confident expression, the queen still didn't grasp what he was insinuating. Then he revealed the battle was meant to decide a lady's suitor. Furthermore, a promise had been made to keep the duel a complete secret. Finally, he stated he wasn't a hero, just an ordinary person. With neither power nor influence, he couldn't possibly dishonor the kingdom with his defeat. He finished by saying the duel was just a silly game between them. While in the dungeon, he had taken the opportunity to explore every corner of the place. Just then, knights entered the hall, carrying something for the queen to see. Watching the knights approach, the queen was confused by the scene. Wearing a confident smile, he knew that with this, everything would work out. He revealed that he had secured a small prize. Then, the knights tipped the sacks, spilling a mountain of gold coins. Faced with the scene, the queen and princess were completely shocked by the wealth. Inori explained that these were the treasures from the dungeon's first floor. Picking up one of the coins, the queen examined it with a smile on her face. With a smug look, he revealed he used his skill to find it all. He ended by saying he only used the duel to prove his worth. Hearing the entire explanation, Princess Aaliyah was left completely shocked and speechless. After everything, the hero left happily, and the case was closed. Later that night, the sky was dark, and birds flew overhead. Back in the forest, he ate another monster, happy to have more time. Emerging from the shadows, he prepared to continue his nightly hunt through the forest. Even so, he was getting tired of always eating the same monster. Suddenly, something different caught his attention, making him stop for a moment. Walking through the forest, he complained that his sense of direction was all messed up. He explained it was confusing since there were only trees on all sides. At that moment, he had the idea to try using one of his other abilities. Activating his true sight, he finally prepared to discover what it was. Seeing the result, he confirmed with a smile that he had finally found what he was looking for. He understood the reason, since detection was a skill of that world. But his demonic eye, on the other hand, was a skill from another world. Observing some wolves, he wondered if stronger monsters existed further inside. Decided to investigate, he knew he could use teleportation to retreat if needed. Inside the place, a pack of shadow wolves suddenly appeared in his path. One of the wolves stared at him with bared teeth, ready to attack. Taking a step forward, he walked calmly into the area. With a serious expression, he faced the wolf pack in front of him. Without hesitation, the wolves sped towards him in an attack. Seeing the pack attack, he prepared for battle against the wolves. Concentrating his magic, he readied his web ability to trap the enemies. Releasing the web, he managed to trap all the wolves at once. With the battle over, the wind blew strongly under the moonlight. Even with a few injuries, he managed to handle the entire pack of wolves. Observing the trapped wolves, he prepared for the next step of his hunt. Stepping into the shadows, he prepared to finally consume the new prey he had captured. After feeding, he continued his exploration of the forest through the night. Watching the mountain's reflection, he walked along the edge of a lake. Stopped for a moment, he observed the night landscape with a calm expression. Under the full moon, the forest stretched out by a large lake nearby. Seeing a giant tree, he felt that a boss might appear at any moment. With a smile, he said this wasn't a video game that had bosses. But suddenly, a giant, ferocious wolf emerged from behind the tree. Advancing with speed, the creature struck him with a powerful, precise bite. From the impact of the attack, his arm was completely ripped off instantly. In complete shock, he stared at the wound, disbelieving what had happened. Without giving him time to react, the wolf landed another powerful blow on him. Thrown far, he was flung with force by the impact of the second attack. Hitting the ground violently, he screamed in pain from the severe wound. Totally stunned, he wondered what that incredibly strong creature was. Using his ability, he identified the monster as the mythical beast Fenrir. Seeing the identification, he realized that this wasn't just any monster. Looking at his arm, he faced the grave injury he suffered in the attack. Hidden, he remembered these creatures usually appeared as mini-bosses in games. He then thought about fleeing through the shadow, but feared an ambush on the other side. With no time to think, the wolf fired a final attack in his direction. Seeing the fast attack, he prepared for the giant creature's bite, but the wolf hit only the ground, kicking up dust everywhere. Realizing it missed the attack, the beast looked around, searching for its target. At that moment, Inori appeared in the sky, revealing a pair of large wings. Just then, a brief memory of a smiling young woman passed through his mind. With his new wings, he admitted he was wrong about the vampiric ability. Looking up, the beast finally asked the reason for his presence there. Surprised by the speech, he realized the mythical creature could communicate. After landing on the cliff, he replied that he was just lost in the forest. Angrily, the beast shouted that he had broken the illusion spell to enter. He then replied he was just curious about what the spell was protecting. Accusing him of trespassing, the beast warned that he wouldn't leave that domain alive. Faced with the threat, he just listened to the beast's words in total silence. He then said that the more it spoke, the more important the place seemed. Inori finds it amusing. He listens as the beast says it will grant him knowledge. The beast reveals they formed a pact with a witch in these lands. Confused, he asks which witch the creature is talking about. It continues, explaining they protected this place as promised. During that time, they wiped out every monster that tried to invade. It finishes by saying they also eliminated every intruder like him who showed up. With a growl, the beast threatens to destroy his other arm if he resists. Seeing his regenerated arm, he realizes the vampiric power is quite strong. Noticing the regeneration, the beast says it now has one more reason to attack. Charging with fury, the beast lunges at him with full force. Seeing the attack, Inori braces for the creature's charging impact, but he manages to dodge, causing the beast to slam hard into the ground instead. Even though he can read the attacks, he knows escaping this fight won't be easy. Using his wings, he dodges attacks while flying to get some distance. He decides to keep up the pace, waiting for a chance to escape through the forest. Pushed off the cliff, he falls rapidly toward the ground below. Suddenly, his eye activates, perceiving a new threat approaching. The creature then fires a barrage of attacks in his direction. With no chance to dodge, the attacks hit him squarely in midair. The impact sends him crashing through several trees in a violent fall. Meanwhile, the beast lands on the ground, observing the result of the attack. The creature just watches the crash site with a keen gaze. Already on the ground, he tries to stand up, still feeling the pain of his injuries. Seeing him down, the beast advances with its mouth open to finish him. The beast's strike causes a massive explosion of dirt and debris. Unable to find an opening, he can't find a chance to counterattack. Nearby, a large waterfall flows forcefully between the rocks. Looking for shelter, he notices there are no trees nearby to hide behind. The beast then prepares to fire a new, powerful attack. Hit squarely by the new barrage, he screams in pain on the ground. Approaching the fallen body, the beast stares at him with its teeth bared. Seeing the body on the ground, the beast gives a victorious and satisfied grin. With a roar, the beast advances with its open mouth for the final attack. But with a smirk, he touches the ground, activating a new ability. Suddenly, wooden stakes emerge from the ground, advancing at high speed. The stakes rise up, creating a protective barrier around him. Seeing the unexpected attack, the beast dodges at the last second, escaping the stakes. Surprised by the trap, The beast wonders what those stakes were. Protected, he's happy he kept the stakes stored in his shadow dimension. Even though he's safe, he knows the battle isn't over yet and remains alert. With a growl, the beast glares at him, ready to continue the fight. Facing the giant creature, he stands motionless on alert in the forest. He wishes he could use his teleport ability to flee, but he explains his demon eye is currently loaded with hypnosis magic. Saying he needs to swap the circle, he tries to change the ability's effect. He decides he needs a little time to make the switch. His hand summons several daggers emerging from a shadow on the ground. Seeing the threat, the giant wolf bares its teeth and prepares to attack. He says he'll try to find an opening to strike his opponent. With a gesture, he launches all the daggers at the giant wolf. No effect. The daggers hit the wolf, who noticed this was the next move. He realizes the wolf's fur is blocking all his attacks. Charging with speed, the giant wolf goes right at him with everything it has. Trying to defend himself, he makes more daggers emerge rapidly from the ground. But these daggers also shatter upon hitting the giant creature's body. Mocking him, the wolf says the attempt was futile, and weak attacks won't hurt it. Speeding ahead, the creature leaves a trail as it moves through the forest. Trying to defend himself, he blocks the wolf's attacks with his arms and daggers. Even so, one of the blows manages to graze his left shoulder. He then realizes he doesn't need to dodge everything, just protect his vital points. Facing the giant creature, he prepares for his opponent's next move. Surprised by the resistance, the wolf notes how tenacious the boy is being. Suddenly, several threads begin forming in the air right in front of him. Activating the ability, he launches a web at his enormous enemy. Anchoring itself to the trees, the web begins to tighten with incredible force. Taken by surprise, the wolf ends up having its muzzle completely bound by the technique. Tightening even further, the web forces the monster's mouth to open. Seeing the opportunity, he realizes this is the opening he's been waiting for. With immense pressure, the web starts breaking the trees where it was attached, but the threads can't withstand the creature's strength and begin to snap. Breaking free, the wolf shouts that it cannot be wounded by such a fragile net. Seeing the creature break loose, he is shocked by its immense strength. With no other option, he says he'll need to use that other combat method. Dodging attacks, he runs through the forest to gain some distance from the monster. Then he flees from the wolf, preparing for his next move. Hoping it works, he states his risky plan has to succeed. Stomping his foot hard on the ground, he uses the momentum to jump. He climbs the tree rapidly, leaping between the highest branches. Down below, the wolf calls him a fool for retreating into the sky. Then the creature jumps toward him with impressive speed to attack. Shouting, the wolf warns that he is transformed into an easy target mid-air. At that moment, his other eye activates, completely changing the course of combat. Revealing his trap, several lines appear stretched between the forest trees. Jumping straight into the wires, the wolf is caught by the hidden trap. With a smirk, he announces that his demon eye has been locked and reloaded. Shouting the command, he activates his eye's special ability. Magic circles swirl around him as his demonic eye triggers a teleport spell. The wolf is stunned, unable to believe its small opponent is trying to flee the battle. He confirms the wolf's suspicion, but adds that just leaving wouldn't be very nice. Reappearing midair directly above the beast, he readies an attack. Grinning, he finishes his thought. He couldn't leave without saying goodbye. He drops toward the monster, landing a precise blow right in its eye. The creature roars in pain as he sticks the landing. He remarks that he hates playing defense in a fight like this. Furious, the wolf calls him a worm for daring to attack its eyes. He barely dodges a tail swipe from the enraged beast. He realizes he definitely pissed it off with that eye shot. Hiding, he wonders if the wolf can even see him anymore. He concludes the monster must be tracking his scent. Smiling, he realizes the creature really wants him dead. Seeing the wolf charge, he braces himself for the giant gaping maw headed his way. Announcing it's time to go, he prepares to flee the forest. A teleportation magic circle appears right above the wolf's head. The wolf realizes he's escaped and howls in rage at the full moon. The creature wonders if he'll run away next time they meet too. Back in his room, he collapses on the floor, exhausted and wounded from battle. He comments that the best he could manage was just scratching it, but he promises himself that next time, he will definitely win. The scene shifts to a large castle in the distance at sunset. He explains that since that day, he started adjusting his gear. First, he infiltrated Arsenal 5, sneaking around to avoid detection. He gathered metals and items he could use as materials. Then, he examined the wolf fur he'd collected during the fight just in case. Analyzing the sample, he realized the monster's fur was incredibly tough. Holding the item, he says he'll try to identify it to see exactly what it is. Infusing it with mana, he discovers the fur hardens in response to his power. Now he understands why his attacks didn't work against the giant creature. He decides to see what weapons he can create with this material. Using his ability, he begins manipulating several threads with both hands. Forming a new weapon, he names the powerful creation Gleipnir. Reading the description, he sees the wire is unbreakable and crystallizes with mana. Remembering mythology, he gets excited, saying the monster won't be able to break this. He wonders if he can use the same material for something else. Concentrating his energy, he prepares to craft another piece of equipment. He creates the Glove of Absolute Darkness, a brand new item. Explaining the technique, he shows that he can now see the magic circle clearly. Looking at the glove, he wonders if he can make a full set. Using the remaining materials, he continues the process, creating a pair of boots. Finishing the set, he adjusts the tie on his new battlesuit. Dressed in the new outfit, he prepares for the upcoming confrontation. With everything ready, he declares it excellent, because it's time for revenge. Falling from the sky, a pillar of light hits the forest floor. Sensing the presence, the creature turns toward the sudden noise. Emerging on the spot, he greets the monster staring back at him. Smiling, he asks if the wolf managed to have a good night. Furious, the wolf calls him bold for showing up again. Shouting, it tells him he shouldn't have stepped foot in this place a second time. Provoking it, he comments that the wolf looks cooler without pupils in its eyes. Telling him to shut up, the wolf advances and attacks with its claws. He wonders how the beast can be so precise even though it's blind. Shouting, the wolf warns it will destroy him permanently for invading its domain. He realizes the wolf is most angered by the territorial invasion. Running toward the monster, he says he loves all this devotion from the Guardian. Then he reveals he can't wait to finish the creature off for good. Answering the challenge, the giant wolf roars and readies for fight. Preparing himself, he summons shadow claws onto his hands. Summoning his familiars, he launches the shadow creatures for a direct attack. Taken by surprise, the giant wolf stares at the new opponents approaching. Charging in, one shadow wolf bites hard onto the creature's neck. Another shadow creature manages to lock its jaw onto the giant monster's leg. As more wolves attack, the monster asks what kind of creatures these are. Grinning, he tells the wolf to smell them, since it has such a good nose. He remarks that the familiars still carry the scent of the wolf's species. Calling him a demon, the wolf asks what was done to its kin. He replies that they looked useful, so he turned them into his own familiars. With a single blow, the giant wolf throws one of the shadow familiars far away. Surprised, he observes the creature's violent reaction to the truth. The monster attacks him with everything it has, slamming him hard against a tree. Though hit, he says the suit will buy him a little time. He then blocks a strike from the giant wolf using his newly created glove. Holding the monster's mouth, he continues resisting the creature's direct attack. Running through the forest, his shadow familiars begin to spread out. The shadow wolves move at high speed among the trees. Lying on the ground, he catches his breath after that last hit. Shouting, the giant wolf swears it will avenge its entire species. Smiling, he activates his teleport ability again to escape, but the wolf only bites down on a wooden log left behind as bait. Realizing the trap, the creature gets irritated seeing he fled again. The wolf looks up, noticing him floating right there. Stomping its paw on the ground, the monster propels itself with tremendous force. Leaping towards him, the giant wolf tries to hit him with a new attack. He then says he didn't run, claiming it's actually the opposite. Surprised, the wolf realizes it has fallen into a web of wires mid-air. Going through the trap, the creature is struck by numerous taut wires. Up in a tree, one of his shadow familiars was already waiting. The monster wonders how it failed to detect the scent of any of them. Totally trapped, the wolf shouts and asks him what he did. He reveals that he made the wires from its own fur and warns that now there is no escape. Giving the command, he orders the wires of his new trap to shrink rapidly. Activating Gleipnir, he begins to tighten the web with all his might. Being crushed, the giant wolf screams as it's immobilized by the new technique. Resisting the power, the wires pin the monster's back against the ground. Not even the creature's paws can escape the prison of magical wires. With the impact, the wolf is thrown brutally against the forest floor. Trying to break free, the creature bites the wires, but they don't snap. He then explains that the wolf didn't smell the trap because the scent was his own. Continuing the explanation, he says he let the wolf attack him on purpose. All of that was to irritate it and divert its attention from the wires hidden there. Saying he sealed the area, he used teleportation to trap only the wolf. Standing in front of the monster, he observes the defeated creature on the ground. Saying goodbye to the wolf, he prepares to deal the final blow to the creature. With a final gesture, he clenches his fist and finishes his opponent. Meanwhile, his shadow familiars watch everything from among the forest trees. Trapped, the wolf says this is its end, and that the pact will die along with it. Under the starry sky, the full moon illuminates the silent night of the forest. Even victorious, he wipes the blood dripping from his mouth after the fight. Seeing the result, he comments that he gained 5 levels and some new skills. Analyzing the screen, he gets confused reading the list of new acquired techniques. Seeing the new ability, he's surprised by a voice calling him master. He then asks if the familiars can speak, and they confirm the new ability. At this, he wonders if this is one of the benefits of the newly acquired skill. Asking the reason for the call, the familiar asks him to transform their old master. Surprised, he asks if the request is to transform the wolf into a familiar. They explain that the old master fought to protect those lands and all of them. Asking to be reunited, he accepts the request, and the familiars immediately thank him. He then says he won't lose anything by doing a favor like that. Standing there, he thinks about how exhausted he is after all that battle. Changing the scene, a plentiful table is shown with food and drink for him. At this, one of the friends says he's been thinking about a very important subject. He comments that the first and second princesses don't seem to get along very well. While eating, the female friend says maybe the second princess just pushes her sister away. But the other colleague replies that she's not so sure about that situation. Complaining about the garlic, he says they don't seem to truly hate each other. Then the friend asks for him to investigate this whole situation better himself. Surprised by the request, he asks why it should be him doing that. Saying there's no other way, he suggests others know how to talk to girls better. But the friend explains that he is the closest one to the second princess there. He complains about her arrogance, but the friend guarantees she will allow it. Without understanding the confidence, he asks how the friend can be so certain. With a confident smile on his face, the friend begins to explain the reason. He then reveals the reason is that the first princess is into him. Hearing the revelation, everyone at the table is completely left with nothing to say. Offering a day off, the friend closes the deal with him right then. Knocking on the bedroom door, he wonders if this plan will really work. From inside, the princess announces she was waiting for him and authorizes him to enter. Seeing the unpleasant start, he already thinks he'd prefer to be able to leave that place. With a superior tone, she says she will grant the honor of conversing. She then completes it, saying he should feel very honored by the chance. Analyzing the place, he notes that the room's decoration is quite inconsistent. Amanda asks if he is surprised by her treasures, since he is a commoner. Pointing to an object, he questions if everything was chosen by her preference. Amanda denies it instantly, explaining that everything is gifts, and that he is uncultured. Trying to be quick, he says he wants to talk about the relationship with her sister, but Amanda cuts him off, yelling that this is nonsense and there is no problem at all. At this, he realizes the conversation is going nowhere, like talking to a wall. Denying everything, she says there isn't any problem between the two of them to solve. He then explains they asked him to fix her relationship with her sister. Being surprised, she questions why she would want to do something like that. Questioning the attitude, he asks if she doesn't want things to improve. Turning her back, she calls him a commoner and says this isn't his business. Realizing he's getting nowhere, he decides to use another strategy to convince her. Mentioning the friend, he says Ryuto will be very sad if she refuses. Hearing the name, she gets shocked because it was Ryuto who arranged the meeting. Desperate, she asks him to wait, saying there's no need to be in such a hurry. Holding a brush, she begins to tell that they used to be much closer before. Leaning on the chair, he listens attentively to the story she starts to tell. She then completes the story, saying this was when they were younger. In a memory, the older sister appears combing her hair with affection. She recounts that her sister was brilliant, and it was very fun to play together. Because of that, she ended up following the older sister everywhere. Spying through a crack, she observes the older sister from afar in the hallway. She says that after a while, her sister started pulling away from her. When she turned 7, she received the title of First Princess and the right of succession. Besides that, she discovered the second princess had no blood ties with their mother. Looking at the sky, Amanda remembers the moments that changed everything between them. Amanda explains that since then, their relationship stayed exactly like this. Attentive to every word, he hears the princess's report with great attention. She says she only noticed during classes how talented her sister was. The princess recounts that her sister was a very talented and quite attentive person. In classes, the sister always helped her with studies and books. She wonders how nice it would be if her sister were by her side now, but she knew the adults around would never allow that to happen. At the end of the story, Amanda gets an expression of great sadness. Sitting on the chair, Amanda says she has now told everything he needed to know. Understanding the situation, he notes her attitude is the fruit of her teachings. Thinking about that, he sees the inconsistent decoration indicates a lack of own identity. Summarizing the situation, he concludes everything in her life was simply given. He then realizes she acts with arrogance to reaffirm her purpose. Seeing he is quiet, she orders him to speak and give his advice. Considering the attitude, he thinks perhaps she was born with this pride. At this, he suggests that she start calling her sister sister because it suits her. Getting embarrassed, she says she can't do that because of the servants' gossip. Provoking, he asks if the staff are more important than the first princess. He then questions if it isn't she who should make her own decisions. Worried, she says if she does that, she will burden her sister with her words. Comforting the princess, He says the sister isn't as weak as she thinks. Hearing the advice, she stays silent for a moment, processing his words. Stuttering, she agrees and tells him to consider this a great honor. Leaving the room, he just agrees with disdain while closing the door behind him. Summarizing the conversation, his maid says that was the essence of the story. At this, he calls her, addressing her as Lady Nala to continue. Saying she doesn't like the task, she warns she will tell the story anyway. Seeing her reaction, he notes it is because she is the second princess's maid. Switching to the next day, the sun rises over the grand royal castle. Saying good morning, Maid Nala notifies that she brings a message from Her Highness. Still sleepy, he asks what message she left for him. She then informs that Her Highness is going to hold a special class that very same day. Hearing the message, he says he has a terrible feeling about all this. Down in the city center, the main street was bustling with pedestrians. Inori was being guided through the capital by Aliyah and Nala. Not quite grasping the situation, Inori wondered what sort of outdoor lesson awaited them. She explained that he was there to learn about prices and the general vibe of the city. Concerned, he asked what they planned to buy during the outing. Looking straight ahead, Aliyah began contemplating what she wanted to get. Stopping at a shop, Aliyah mentioned she was thinking of buying an accessory. Watching the scene unfold, he remembered that royalty didn't typically buy goods directly. While choosing the item, the princess seemed flustered, her face slightly flushed. She asked for his opinion, wanting to know which accessory he thought was prettier. Unsure what to say, he replied that both would look great on her. Stammering, she explained that she wouldn't actually be the one wearing the gift. Confused, he couldn't figure out who was receiving the accessory. Whispering, the aide explained they were there to buy a gift for the princess. A flashback showed the princess suggesting a market excursion to buy the present. Grasping the situation, he asked why Her Highness was seeking his opinion. The princess fell silent for a moment, unsure how to respond. She explained that he would know more about her older sister's preferences, but he said he couldn't really tell, and that any gift would do. Worried, the princess asked if her gift wouldn't have any meaning then. Unsure how to answer, he just remained silent for a brief moment. Correcting himself, he said the point was who was giving it, not what it was. He explained that she would like anything, as long as it was chosen by Aliyah. Thinking about it, he really just wanted to go back to the palace and sleep. With a smile, the princess thanked him for the advice he had just given. At the counter, the princess chatted with the saleswoman to finalize her purchase. Nala commented that Aliyah wouldn't have thought of this without his meeting. Holding the gift, the princess smiled, genuinely happy with the situation. Nala said seeing the princess smile again brought her great joy. From the side, he just watched the scene, observing the interaction between the two women. The princess arrived, startling the aide, who denied they were gossiping. The princess then suggested they find a place to eat, offering to pay for lunch. 5 days later, a table laden with food was shown during a party. At the party, he commented that he had received a special invitation to the princess's birthday. Looking around, he noted the luxurious food and powerful guests. Suddenly, all the guests began applauding the arrival of the birthday girl. Seated on the throne, Amanda smiled with her eyes closed as she received the applause. Beside her, the king and queen also clapped, celebrating the special moment. Then, his friend approached the princess to congratulate her personally. Wishing her a happy birthday, he complimented her beauty, saying it was shining even brighter. Thanking him for the compliment, the princess smiled, her face slightly flushed. Observing from afar, he stood in the middle of the party, surrounded by other guests. Finding the scene adorable, he began observing other people at the party. He then noticed a man talking to the kingdom's knight commander. The man was identified as Chancellor Vitre of the Rising Sun Kingdom. Identifying the man as Chancellor, he decided the matter was none of his business. He then started looking for Aliyah among all the party guests. He found her, seeing she was hiding behind one of the pillars. Not understanding the nervousness, he wondered why she was so hesitant, but seeing her sister with Ryuto, he realized they seemed quite busy. Remembering his day off, he decided he needed to make the mission succeed. Aliyah then approached and asked how she should enter their conversation. He told her to consider this payback for the kick he took earlier. Saying it was time to fight, he reminded her of combat training. With a shout, he pushed her from behind, taking the princess completely by surprise. Pushing hard, he threw her in the direction of her sister and her friend. She ended up face to face with her sister, right in the middle of the party. Surprised by the shouting, all the guests turned to look at the scene. Leaning against the pillar, he just watched the result of his risky plan working out. Face to face, the two sisters didn't know what to say to each other. Holding the gift behind her back, Aliyah prepared to finally speak to her sister. Seeing the scene, guests began whispering about the interaction between the two sisters. He questioned the reaction, asking why sisters couldn't just face each other. Mentally, he urged her to act and not let his efforts be in vain. Hesitant, she remained still, not knowing what to do or say to her sister. Wishing her a happy birthday, she extended the small gift box to Her Highness. Then she said she brought the gift to celebrate that special occasion. Surprised by the gesture, The princess accepted the green box her sister offered. With a click, she opened the small box to see what was inside. Looking at the accessory, she wondered about the item she had just received. Asking for help, she said she wanted to wear the gift right then at the party. Taken by surprise, Aaliyah didn't know how to react to the request. Blushing, Amanda insisted, saying it was a special request. So she helped her sister, placing the new accessory in the princess's hair. Being placed, the new hair accessory got snagged on one of the locks. Turning to her sister, she asked with a smile how it looked. Complimenting her sister, she said the accessory looked very good and matched perfectly. With a huge smile, the princess was visibly happy with the compliment received. Celebrating greatly, she thanked her sister for the gift and the special moment between them. Seeing the scene, friends and guests applauded the reconciliation of the two sisters. Then the princess said she would also like to receive another very special gift. Blushing, she approached and prepared to make the request. Asking tenderly, she said she wished she could call her sister again. She then asked if perhaps that would be too difficult a request to fulfill. Hearing the request, Aaliyah froze, not knowing what to answer. Thinking back to the past, she remembered when they were closer and happier together. Crying, she said it wasn't a problem and that she was very happy about it. Surprised by the answer, the princess was stunned for a moment, processing everything. Crying out for her sister, she hugged her tightly, showing all her affection. Hugging back, the older sister called her by name, emotional with the moment. Hearing the applause, he realized that in the end, everything had worked out very well. The queen then commented that the scene was beautiful, praising Amanda's attitude. The friend said it was incredible and that he had chosen the right man for the job, warning that he owed him. He expected something good in return for the work. Winking, the friend said he would think of something to give as a gift. The older princess said she was happy they had made peace. Hands on hips, the friend confirmed he was also very happy. Thinking, he noted that the friend was a cool guy, worthy of the title of hero. Saying he was going to get some air, he started moving away from the main party. Leaving the hall, he walked to the castle balcony to be alone for a bit. Outside, Aaliyah called him, appearing on the balcony shortly after he arrived. She said she went there to talk to him about what happened. Asking her to speak, he warned that no one else was there with them. She then commented that he used detection, praising the utility of the gift. Without saying anything, he just remained standing, looking at the horizon in silence. He commented that she was capable of expressing herself, and she retorted about being more expressive. Suddenly the scene changed, showing a bloody sword lying on the palace floor. Reacting to the noise, the party guests went into a complete state of shock. Looking at the horizon, he said that now the kingdom would see her as a person. Suddenly, a loud scream made both of them turn around at the same time. Hearing the scream, the two rush back to the main party hall. He stops her from moving forward, yelling at her not to go there. Shocked, she stares at the scene unfolding right in front of her. Suddenly, a dark mass emerges, completely swallowing the queen's body. In the background, screams of despair echo as people call out for their fallen royalty. Vitre then shouts, ordering all the worms present to be silent. He proclaims that the incompetent queen never cared about the people's poverty. Accusing the royals, he says they wasted the entire kingdom's treasures. He announces that the tyrant and her consort are finally dead. Proclaiming himself, Vitre declares he will be the new king of the realm. Beside him, the knight commander steps into a pool of blood. He finishes by saying he will have Aegiana by his side as the new queen. Surprised, they hide and question the knight commander's involvement. On her knees, the princess cries desperately over the loss of her mother. Swearing vengeance, she vows Vitre will pay for everything with blood. Screaming, the princess releases a wave of power that spreads through the hall. She concentrates her energy, preparing a direct attack against the new king. Seeing the threat, the knight commander prepares to intercept the blow. Charging forward, she steps in front of the attack and strikes the princess with her sword. Hit squarely, the princess screams in pain as she's thrown to the ground. Falling to her knees, she lets out a cry of agony from the deep wound. From the impact, the hair accessory she wore falls to the hall floor. Seeing the scene, her friends shout the princess's name, desperate over the situation. The knight commander orders Ryuto not to interfere and to stand down. Threatening them, she says they will die painfully if they try to fight her. Vitre shouts that they are the descendants and people of the ancestral witch. He says a foolish sorceress who summoned heroes can never be forgiven. Condemning the princess, he declares her crime can only be paid with her life. With the sword pointed at her, the younger sister calls out for the fallen princess. The commander advances to deliver the final blow. The traitors say they are sending her soul to the witch. The younger sister screams in terror, watching the scene unfold. Hidden, he tries to process everything that just happened right in front of him. From afar, the fallen princess's sister desperately screams Amanda's name. He stops her, warning that if she screams, they will come after them. Looking at the scene, he realizes an insurrection has been staged at the palace. Standing still, the Knight Commander observes the guards surrounding the hall. Vitre orders his comrades to punish the fallen queen's herd. Desperate, the party guests begin screaming in fear and pure panic. Advancing, the guards start attacking all the guests at the party. Without mercy, one of the nobles is stabbed in the back by a soldier. The Chancellor shouts that villains have conspired against and corrupted this noble nation. Falling, he says everyone there must pay for their sins with their lives. Holding her tightly, he demands she pull herself together and calm down immediately. Crying, she says if he goes out there, they'll end up killing him too. Giving her options, he says she can either die like a dog or flee. Enveloped by a black mass, the guests' bodies begin to be consumed. Beside the princess's body, Ryuto kneels, shocked by the scene. Looking at the body on the floor, he says, "This isn't right. It's terrible." Shouting in anger, he says no one deserves to die in such a horrible way. The Chancellor remarks that the hero is still very young and quite naive. Vitre warns that none of the nobles gathered in that hall deserve to keep living. He says Ryuto doesn't understand the crisis the nation is in. But Ryuto yells that this doesn't justify massacring everyone as if they were animals. Without saying a word, the Chancellor just stares at him with a serious, cold look. He then says Ryuto will come to his senses when he witnesses the country's tragedies. Giving an order, his friend tells the commander to detain all the heroes. Asking them not to resist, she warns it will only result in more pain. With anger, Ryuto prepares to fight the Knight Commander. Releasing his power, he activates the Limit Break blessing to fight. Clasping his hands, he readies to attack the commander with his sword. Attacking with everything he has, he unleashes a massive wave of energy through the main hall. Surprised, he sees the commander blocked his attack with ease. Sword in hand, she prepares to fight him with full force. Praising him, she says his resolve and power deserve applause. Gritting his teeth, he struggles to maintain the attack against the commander. With the clash of swords, a great shockwave spreads through the area. She manages to repel his attack, throwing stone shards everywhere. Debris flies, smashing the columns and windows of the royal castle hall. Scared, his friend screams in fear at the intensity of the battle. Trying to protect herself, she creates a barrier to block soldier attacks. Desperate, the other friend shouts they need to get Ryuto out of there fast. Being surrounded, they complain about the number of soldiers and lack of weapons. From afar, the Knight Commander observes the scene without saying a word. Exhausted, Ryuto breathes with difficulty, lacking the strength to keep fighting there. The commander notes that the other heroes are also fighting a difficult battle. Pressing his sword, Ryuto continues straining to his limit not to yield. The two blades clash, releasing sparks and a strong wave of energy. She asks what he's going to do, since he has no chance of winning. Advising surrender, she warns she will detain them all sooner or later. Crying with sadness, Aaliyah sits on the floor, desolate over the situation. She completes her thought, saying she will do this to later dispose of the second princess. Seeing the scene, he approaches to try and comfort her in that moment of pain. He says they need to move if they don't want to die and dig their own graves. Clutching the fabric of her dress, she remains motionless, paralyzed by despair and fear. Questioning her attitude, he asks if she is going to give up on everything once again. In a memory, she sees herself walking hand in hand with her older sister. Their hands separate, and she remembers the distance that grew between them. Calling out for her sister, she recalls the moments she lost because of pride. Screaming, she vows she will never give up and will live for herself and for Amanda. Shouting furiously, she says no one will decide where and when she dies. Hearing her declaration, he stares at her for a moment in total silence. With a smile, he offers to accompany her on this journey she has chosen. Correcting how he addresses her, he calls her by her first name, saying only Aaliyah. Shattering the barrier, the attack advances effortlessly toward Ryuto. Egiana strikes with her sword as he tries to defend against the blow. Ryuto screams in terror over the blade, watching his defense get completely destroyed. With a smile, Egiana declares that this is the end. Charging in, she prepares a powerful kick to hit him square on. The kick launches Ryuto violently into the air without hesitation. Struck hard, he shows the full pain of the violent impact. From afar, Aoi is completely shocked by Commander Egiana's violence. Standing over his fallen body, Egiana hears Tamaki scream his name. Tamaki panics, saying they need to save Ryuto or they will die. Suddenly, the ground near the commander breaks abruptly. A barrier emerges from the floor, blocking Commander Egiana's path. Together, Aoi and Tamaki appear, questioning what is happening. Irritated by the interference, Egiana yells for them to capture the two girls immediately. Obeying the order, two guards advance on them. As they are captured, Tamaki yells at the guards to take their hands off Aoi. Fallen on the ground, Ryuto shouts weakly, begging them to stop. Egiana orders the guards to take everyone to the dungeon. After giving the order, she turns and observes the scene. Maintaining a serious expression, she looks aside for an instant. Changing scenes, Aaliyah runs breathlessly down a castle corridor. Walking now, she states that her absence won't change the final outcome. In another hallway, Inori and Aaliyah run, trying to escape as fast as possible. Running ahead, Inori warns that the right corridor is blocked. Close behind, Aaliyah acknowledges and keeps following the path. They run past 2 patrolling guards undetected. Following Inori, Aaliyah watches him closely as they continue down the narrow corridor. Suddenly, Inori turns and asks Aaliyah if she can use magic. He signals with his hand for them to stop. Pointing to the corner, he warns that 3 soldiers will appear in 10 seconds. Out of breath, Inori asks Aaliyah to handle the approaching guards. Surprised, she stares at him, processing the order. Seeing the soldiers, Aaliyah asks if there is no other escape option. She readies herself for combat, waiting for the right moment to strike. Concentrating her magic, she confirms with him that 3 soldiers are coming. Inori says yes, and starts a countdown for her attack. When he finishes the count, the tip of a sword appears around the corner. Casting her magic, she fires several spheres of air against the enemies. As they turn the corner, the 3 guards are hit squarely by the attack. With the impact, their swords fall to the ground, now totally incapacitated. Seeing the guards down, Inori praises her impressive action. He comments that she defeated the 3 without difficulty, complimenting her training. Aaliyah explains the plan worked because she prepared the spell in advance. Noticing his exhaustion, she asks if he is okay as he seems tired. He admits being tired but warns they need to keep moving. Pointing ahead, he says security is lighter just around the next corner. He says he's not worried about the soldiers, but rather about Egiana. Stating with conviction, he says they must avoid her at all costs. Reaching a door, he peeks inside and breathes a sigh of relief. Confirming no one is there, he says he's going in to check routes. Aaliyah asks if that is the maid's room and if it's empty. Looking at the floor, they see a dark stain coming from inside. Seeing the scene inside, Aaliyah covers her mouth while Inori watches her. Inside the room, several bodies of maids are scattered on the floor and table. Inori comments that the guards have already finished their work there. Horrified, Aaliyah calls out Nala's name upon recognizing one of the bodies. She runs toward the maid's body, while Inori observes the scene. Kneeling down, Aaliyah touches Nala's face, fallen on the floor. Crying, she embraces her maid's body amidst the situation. With a serious expression, Inori watches Aaliyah mourning Nala's loss. In a memory, Nala smiles, while a voice says it is great to see her happy. Inori approaches, observing silently as Aaliyah hugs the body. With her hand on her shoulder, she holds Nala's hand for a moment. Then, sitting on the floor, she covers her face and continues crying. Standing up, she turns and thanks Inori for waiting. He replies he was just catching his breath and asks how they will escape. Switching to the dungeon, Ryuto and the girls appear imprisoned inside a cell. Egiana activates a magic seal, explaining that they will never leave there. Looking at them, she warns them not to try anything and stay quiet. Tamaki questions why they need shackles if the seal is so strong. Ryuto explains it's so they don't hurt themselves, keeping them safe. He says they are hostages to negotiate with the Alliance of Heroes. Agreeing, Egiana says she is surprised by his logic in that moment. Trapped by the chains, Ryuto's eyes begin to shine intensely in the darkness. With a furious look, he stares at the commander without showing any fear. Seeing his transformation, Aioi and Tamaki remain completely frightened by the scene. Facing the commander, Ryuto stares at her with a gaze full of anger and determination. Observing the boy, she seems to recognize something familiar in that look. In a past memory, she appears standing amidst several fallen soldiers. In that moment, she remembers how she realized her own ignorance and naivety. Seeing her defeated companions, she understood what it meant to be completely powerless. She realizes Ryuto's look was the same one she once had. Back to the present, Egiana continues to observe the boy seriously. Ryuto stares back, still furious with the situation in the cell. Giving advice, she tells him never to forget those emotions and to think rationally. Moving away from the bars, she continues her speech while preparing to leave. Egiana says his friends could have escaped the hall. She then turns and begins to climb the stairs, leaving the dungeon. The 2 girls watch in silence with worried expressions. Gritting his teeth, Ryuto gets irritated with her lecture. She continues climbing, ignoring the prisoner's reaction. Touching the wall, she notes there is still no news of the princess's capture. Giving an order, she sends a guard to help his brothers-in-arms in the search. Looking down at the map, the princess declared that was their destination. She pointed to a specific spot on the castle blueprints. When Inori asked what was there, she explained about the secret door. The hidden passage revealed itself to be a very old stone staircase. She told him that using that route would allow them to escape the castle safely. Inori agreed, asking if only royalty knew about this escape route. She confirmed it was for emergencies, but admitted she didn't know if it still worked. Even so, he insisted they had to try. They had no other choice. Turning to Nala, the princess begged for forgiveness for being unable to do anything. She looked into her maid's face one last time before finally leaving. Thanking her for all her service, she turned and followed Inori out the door. Outside, the sound of soldiers' footsteps began approaching rapidly. Several guards appeared in the hallway, blocking their intended path. Realizing the danger, Inori warned that more soldiers were gathering nearby. He said that at this pace, they would be completely surrounded in no time. Sprinting down the long corridor, they continued their desperate escape for survival. Using his ability, Inori detected the positions of all nearby soldiers. He grabbed her hand, stopping her in her tracks and asking her to wait. He warned that the soldiers had prepared an ambush for them. Explaining the situation, he said there were dozens of soldiers ahead. He also warned that they couldn't turn back, as they were being closely pursued. Meanwhile, the soldiers behind them kept getting closer and closer. Worried, Aaliyah asked if there was any way to sneak past them. Looking aside, Inori replied that there was zero possibility of doing that. He explained that the soldiers were blocking the path to the secret door. Hearing the news, Aaliyah fell silent, processing the terrible information. Inori speculated that they must have discovered the route by torturing someone for the information. With his back to her, he observed the hallway, assessing the current situation. Turning her face, Aaliyah stated with conviction that she would not give up fighting. Shouting with determination, she declared she would fight until her very last breath. Maintaining her resolve, she braced herself for what was coming. Inori looked back at her, processing her courageous declaration. With a smile, he noted that she hadn't given up, and that would be very useful. He then revealed that he sensed an army from another nation approaching. Shocked, she asked about the army, and he confirmed they didn't serve the kingdom. She questioned him, wanting to know exactly when they would arrive. He explained they would get there in 15 minutes, but they would encounter soldiers along the way. Understanding the plan, she agreed and prepared to run alongside him. Inori calculated they had a 50% chance of surviving until then. At that, she said they would run the path with the fewest soldiers, asking him for cover. Suddenly, a guard ahead noticed the movement and went on alert. Seeing them, the guard shouted that the princess was there and ordered the attack. The leader then yelled for the archers to fire their magic arrows immediately. Following the order, several magic arrows were fired toward the two fugitives. To defend against the attack, she quickly prepared a protection spell. She conjured a magical barrier, blocking all the approaching arrows. Yelling, she stated with conviction that they would survive those 15 minutes. Despite her defense, one arrow managed to get through, striking her in the shoulder. Even with the wound, she kept running without looking back. Seeing the danger, Inori shouted for them to turn right immediately. They dodged at the last second as the wall behind them was destroyed. Another magical attack exploded in the corridor, kicking up dust and debris everywhere. The captain of the guards shouted for them to surround the pair and not let them escape. Surprised, Inori noted that the soldiers were moving faster than he expected. Detecting more enemies, he asked if she could stop the ones coming from the left. Ignoring the pain, she prepared to conjure another magical barrier to protect them. A new barrier materialized, blocking the passage and surprising the arriving soldiers. The guards hesitated at the barrier, but received orders not to falter and to destroy it. With a single blow, a soldier advanced and shattered the barrier into pieces. Slipping through the passage, Inori commented that they had barely escaped capture. Exhausted, she stopped for a moment, panting and trying to recover her strength. Outside the castle, the sun finally began to disappear over the horizon. Stopping in a hallway, Inori commented that the sun would set soon. Desperate, Aaliyah screamed when she realized they had reached a dead end. Inori apologized and said she needed to hold on for just 3 more minutes. At that moment, a guard shouted that he had found them and alerted the others. The archers then fired a new volley of magic arrows at the pair. Yelling, she told Inori to get behind her and conjured a protective barrier. The guard leader shouted for them to keep firing without advancing. Following the order, the archers prepared more arrows for the next massive attack. Leaning against the wall, she realized her mana was running out. She wouldn't last. She decided she would concentrate only on deflecting fatal shots. At the leader's command, a new wave of magic arrows was unleashed. All the arrows flew at high speed towards the princess and Inori. A massive explosion occurred, raising lots of smoke and debris in the narrow hallway. Without hesitating, the leader shouted for them to prepare the next arrows to fire. Amidst the dust, she remained standing, struggling to sustain the barrier. Even wounded and exhausted, she maintained her determined expression against the enemies. Her magical barrier was bombarded by a rain of arrows from the soldiers. Tired, she asked Inori if the reinforcements were almost there. A guard celebrated, saying they could now finish her off bit by bit. Suddenly, the guards realized the princess was on the floor, but Inori had disappeared. Looking around, she called his name, not understanding what had happened. A dark puddle began to form on the floor, and she called out again. Desperate, she screamed, asking where he was, looking around the dead end. Fallen, She wondered if he had used her as bait to escape. She questioned if he had invented the story about reinforcements just to make her fight. Completely alone on the floor, she wondered if it had all been a big lie. The leader shouted for the guards to stay alert for the accomplice and finish her off. Looking at the soldiers, she showed despair, not knowing what to do now. Through the window, the last ray of sunshine finally disappeared behind the mountains. With the sky dark, a shadow began to emerge near the hallway window. From the shadows, Inori appeared and asked with a smile if he had kept her waiting. Wrapping his arms around the princess, he declared that now it was his turn to fight. Terrified, a guard demands to know what the sudden darkness filling the hallway is. The leader screams that their vision is compromised and orders the torches lit, but in the total blackness, the soldiers can't see a thing. From the shadows, Inori issues a direct command. Fenrir is to eliminate them all. A gargantuan shadow wolf emerges, confirming it will do exactly as he desires. The creature lunges, attacking a soldier who screams in pain. The beast presses its attack, its claws striking another guard squarely. The soldiers begin to yell in desperation, having no idea what's happening. From a distance, the leader asks why they are shouting and orders them to report in. On the ground, a soldier tries to stand but fails. The last soldier's body hits the floor, leaving the corridor in complete silence. Seeing his leader's body, the lone surviving guard is utterly terrified by the scene. On the floor, the princess asks what is happening, understanding nothing. Smiling, Inori orders his vice captain to report and verify the numbers. Inori appears behind the guard, telling him that no one is going to answer his call. Clenching his fists, the guard spins around to face the emerging threat. Recognizing the figure, he asks in shock where Inori came from and what happened. Looking up, Inori asks Fenrir if he's finished the job. Confused, the guard notices shadowy creatures all around him, understanding nothing. Fenrir then appears, reporting that he eliminated everyone, leaving only this one behind. Completely terrified, the guard falls to the ground and begins screaming desperately. He yells for help, calling Fenrir a monster, while Inori just watches. Suddenly, Aaliyah stands up and reminds the guard how many people they have killed. Pointing to another victim, she says it's only fair they suffer the consequences now. Sensing the danger, the guard breaks into a cold sweat, paralyzed by fear. He turns and asks if that person is really Inori Takafuji. With an enigmatic look, Inori simply replies, "Perhaps," leaving him even more confused. Fenrir moves in, opening its mouth to attack the soldier on the floor. Without hesitation, the creature strikes, closing its jaws around the last soldier. With all enemies defeated, Aaliyah remains lying in the total silence. On the ground, Aaliyah calls weakly for Inori, almost out of strength to speak. Using her magic, she tries to staunch the bleeding from the wound in her leg. Inori notices but warns that she has already lost too much blood to recover. Standing before her, he says the time to save her has passed. Indignant, she claims he could have used that power from the beginning. He asks her not to look at him like that and to calm down. Looking up at the moon, he explains that he can only use that power at night. He reveals he invented the story about reinforcements just to survive until nightfall. She glares at him angrily, but he points out that it motivated her to fight. With a slight smile, he watches her expression for a moment. In a flashback, she declares she won't let anyone decide her life. Seeing that conviction, he decides it's worth trying something else. He says he'll get straight to the point, as there isn't much time. Bluntly, he asks if she is a virgin, and she questions why. Inori explains there is a way to save her if she still is. He warns there is a cost. She will become his servant forever. He then offers the choice: die as a human or become something else to live. Weakened, she repeats the question to herself about dying as a human. With her last bit of strength, she begins to say what she really wants to do. In a memory, she appears in a happy moment beside her sister. Crying, she screams that she wants to live, even if she has to sell her soul. Hearing the answer, Inori stands over the fallen princess, watching her. Smiling, he tells her that was a good response. Leaning over her, he approaches her neck to begin the ritual. He bites down, saying he is closer to a demon than a god. Feeling the bite, her eyes widen completely in shock and surprise. In a symbolic scene, a dark drop falls into a reddish liquid on the floor. Next, she is shown sinking slowly, unconscious, amidst total darkness. Inori then orders the bodies transformed into ghouls to eliminate the soldiers. Turning, he adds the order to protect the princess until she wakes up. Looking aside, Inori remarks that it's time to have some fun. Shifting to the throne room, Chancellor Vitre views everything seriously. A guard approaches and informs him that their soldiers found the second princess. He orders them to show her no mercy in achieving their goals. Closing his eyes for a moment, he reflects on the decisions he has made. In a memory, he observes abandoned children suffering from hunger in the kingdom. His younger self looked at that scene with an expression of helplessness. Walking through his lands, he felt guilty for not being able to do anything. Back in the present, he thinks about the long journey that brought him here. He remembers his comrades who shared his same goal. In another memory, He asked for Egiana's help to guide the country. Suddenly, from the throne's shadows, Inori emerges with a dagger. Attacking from behind, he stabs Chancellor Vitre with a precise blow. With a cold look, he observes the result of his surprise attack. The guards react with astonishment upon seeing the Chancellor attacked from behind. Hearing the noise, Amanda reacts with surprise, looking toward the door. She turns quickly, heading back to the hallway she came from. With a serious expression, she wonders what that sinister feeling she just felt was. Back in the room, a guard screams desperately for the Chancellor, who is slumped on the throne. Holding the Chancellor's head, Inori appears, and the guards demand to know where he came from. He informs them their plan has failed, and there is no longer any reason to fight. Furious, the guards call him a demon, disbelieving what they are seeing. One guard shouts for everyone to avenge the Chancellor and kill Inori immediately. With several daggers floating around him, Inori says that was a good response from them. Fallen on the floor, a guard begins to speak about all the spilled blood. He continues the sentence, making one last request before being attacked. Then, all the shadow daggers advance toward the soldiers at once. Hit squarely, one guard is pierced by several of the blades. Smiling, Inori asks them to fight with everything they have. Under attack, soldiers scream desperately as they are wiped out one by one. In another hallway, a warrior stops abruptly. She asks if the others heard that scream. One of them confirms it. The scream came from the ballroom. Racing down the corridor, they hurry toward the source of the noise. Picking up the pace, the group leader runs ahead, already expecting the worst. Arriving at the hall, they find Inori standing amidst total chaos. Turning to face them, he identifies them as Egiana's battle sisters. The four warriors take their positions and stare him down, waiting for his next move. The leader questions him, demanding to know if he's responsible for this. Looking at the warrior, he begins his reply with a question of his own. Gesturing to the bodies, he asks if she intends to fight with everything she has. The leader glares back, ready to start the fight. Taken aback, the warrior surveys the scene with a look of total shock. Filled with hatred, Elpe grits her teeth and prepares for battle. Charging full force, she attacks Inori with her spear as the leader yells out. She succeeds in piercing him, driving her weapon's blade right through his body. Struck hard, Inori coughs up blood, feeling the impact of the blow. Crying with rage, she glares at him, keeping the spear embedded in his chest. With a distant look, she braces herself for what comes next. Suddenly, Inori grabs her. He asks if he killed someone she loved. Embracing her, he apologizes for what he did, leaving her confused by his behavior. The leader shouts, wondering if they struck each other simultaneously. Pulling the blades from his body, Inori regenerates. He tells them that wasn't the case. The leader yells for the other two warriors to prepare for battle. Rallying the group, she declares that Inori is a threat and must be eliminated. Confused, she wonders how he took Elp's blow so calmly. Letting her spear fall, the blonde warrior readies herself for the next attack. The leader believes that if she aims for his weak points, she can defeat him. With his eyes, Inori begins to identify their skills and equipment. Preparing her artifact, the leader stares him down, ready to strike with full force. He realizes her weapon is an artifact, different from common arms. Suddenly, his foot is trapped on the ground by an ice trap. In a combined attack, they immobilize him and prepare for the final blow. He is then hit by an attack. Inori reveals his own artifact, a short sword, and looks at her with surprise. Inori notes that her weapon is extremely fast and also very powerful. Before he can react, she hits him with a precise strike. Inori feels the pain. She realizes that if they continue like this, they will be easily defeated. Smiling, he admits that those artifacts are trickier than he thought. He advances and severs the arm of ice she used to trap him. Leaping high, Inori dodges the attack and surprises the warrior. Unable to understand, the leader yells, questioning how he can still move like that. Believing it was a mistake, she prepares to attack him the moment he lands. Suddenly, she screams desperately. Trapped by magical wires appearing from nowhere, completely paralyzed, she looks to the side with an expression of total disbelief. Seeing her companions trapped, she shouts their names, trying to grasp the situation. Smiling, Inori warns that he has little time left for this fight. Even trapped, the leader asks if he would accept the pleasure of a duel. He accepts, saying it will be a good warm-up for the main fight. She questions him, saying he must have a death wish to face her. With a fixed gaze, he stares at her, analyzing her every movement. He then asks why she fights alongside the others when she is the strongest. Surprised, she stares at him in silence, processing his question. Hateful, she grits her teeth and faces him, ready for combat. Leaping, she charges toward him with all her speed. Holding the attack, she yells at him to shut up and fight. She screams back, saying he knows absolutely nothing about her. He strikes her weapon with a blow, creating a large spark. From the ground, he summons a shadow weapon to use in combat against her. He blocks her attack with the new weapon, surprising her with his strength. Recognizing the moment, She remembers when Egiana invited her to join. In a memory, Egiana introduces a new member to the warrior group. At that moment, all the girls gather to meet their new companion. Back in the present, she falls silent, remembering their bonds. In the flashback, the warriors welcome the new member with joy and enthusiasm. Smiling, the new girl observes her future teammates. Furious, the leader shouts that she will not forgive Inori for insulting her comrades. He celebrates her reaction, telling her to hold on to that desire to kill him. The magic wires then snap, slicing through her armor and body. Satisfied, Inori says they will fight for a little longer. He appears behind her, preparing a surprise attack with his dagger. With a sadistic look, he readies himself for the battle's next move. The magical wires holding the other warriors begin to break. The leader shouts for them to rise and avenge Elpi's death. With determination, she says she is not alone, and that they are a team. In another memory, the girls appear together, smiling and having fun. Suddenly, a scream of pain echoes through the room, interrupting the fight. One of the resurrected warriors attacks the leader from behind, biting her shoulder. Shocked, she calls out Elise's name, unable to believe what is happening. Another resurrected warrior attacks, biting the leader from behind without hesitation. Inori reveals that he turned all the warriors into ghouls to fight for him. Beside him, the red-haired warrior stares blankly. He regrets that the battle didn't last longer, but says it is done. Turning away, he says he will leave the rest to them and prepares to leave. In shock, the leader touches her companion's face, trying to understand the situation. With tears in her eyes, she screams in anger and despair over what has happened. Under attack, her arm is broken by her former teammates. From afar, Inori observes the scene, listening to the warrior's screams of pain. With a serious look, he turns to the moon and prepares to act. Looking at the sky, he says the time has come to end this. Elsewhere, a guard screams desperately while being attacked by monsters. Egiana then appears running down one of the castle corridors, trying to escape. Smiling, Inori watches the scene, wiping the blood from his dagger. Running breathlessly, Egiana says her heart is beating way too fast in her chest. In the throne room, everything was completely destroyed and covered in dark marks. Sensing something is wrong, she reacts with a surprised expression. Running through the hall, she says that at times like these, her instinct is usually right. Stopping midway, she looks up, panting and very worried. She then finds a head on the floor. Kneeling, she holds the severed head, trying to discover who the victim was. Recognizing the face, she confirms her instinct was correct and screams his name. From above, Inori's silhouette appears with large wings against the moon. He then comments to her that the moon is very beautiful tonight. Landing, he explains that this was a popular pickup line in his old world. Hateful, she glares at him and screams his name, ready for the confrontation. He then reveals that the Chancellor's head is a gift for the commander. Grabbing his face tightly, Egiana tries to force an answer out of Inori. She calls his name, demanding to know why he has demon wings. Silhouetted against the moon, Inori just stares back with his black wings and changed eyes. Furious, Egiana screams that such power only comes to those who have sold their souls. Inori looks genuinely confused by the accusation, not grasping her meaning. He replies that he doesn't know what she's talking about. This is just how he lives. Outraged, Egiana shouts that such a pathetic purpose isn't enough. She proudly declares that her fight is for the good of the entire nation. Continuing her lecture, she insists that everyone needs a solid reason to live. As she speaks, her grip tightens painfully. With a regretful look, she laments that if she had only taught him, he wouldn't be a demon now. Stepping back slightly, Egiana turns and asks her former companion for forgiveness. Inori covers his face with his hand, letting out a groan of pain. Meanwhile, his demon wings twitch slightly behind his back. Sarcastically thanking her for the lecture, he asks why she still treats him like her student. Inori points out that her uprising failed. She can no longer fight for the kingdom. Egiana retorts that even though Vitre is gone, they can still continue the fight. Calling her commander, Inori cuts her off with a serious, intimidating glare. Surprised, she stares as he warns her that she doesn't grasp the situation. Suddenly, shadow wolves begin to emerge from the bodies of the fallen soldiers. One of the wolves fully materializes, emerging from within one of the soldiers. Surrounded by his creatures, he says that she is outnumbered and without allies. Seeing her companion on the ground, Egiana stares at him in shock at what is happening. He then reminds her that these were the soldiers who cornered them in the castle. Inori continues, saying that they also killed the battle sisters who fought with her. Standing alone in the courtyard, she hears that now only she remains there. Grabbing one of the female soldiers, he says she can still save them all. Sitting on top of the hostage, Inori adds that all she needs to do is sacrifice herself. He comments that he expected a real fight, But like this, it's just practice. Sitting there, he stares at her from afar, one of his wolves at his side. Waving his hand, he dismisses the idea he was just considering. He concludes that forcing the fight that way wouldn't be any fun anyway. So, he announces his decision. She and Vitre will pay with their lives. Egiana grips the hilt of her sword tighter, preparing to act. Eyes closed, she raises her sword high, pointing it toward the sky. Surprised, Inori asks her exactly what she thinks she's doing. She remains silent for a moment, completely focused, eyes shut tight. With a swift movement, she drives the sword into the ground with devastating force. After the impact, the sword remains embedded in the ground right beside her. She then replies that she was just praying for her fallen companions. Looking at her reflection in the blade, she says she prayed for those who died unjustly. She adds that the prayer is also for those who are about to die. With a look of pure fury, she stares down her opponent before attacking. Then she warns him that she will offer his life as a final sacrifice. He then asks if she is saying she will discard the lives of her knights. Indignant, Egiana reminds him that she built that order over many years. She declares with conviction that she will kill them all with her own hands. Surprised by the answer, Inori stays silent, just observing her determination. He argues that she won't have a country left if the royalty and soldiers die. Taking a step forward, she asserts that she still has her people. To her, it doesn't matter if the nobility corrupts itself or if armies die. She continues, saying that as long as the people exist, there will be a kingdom to defend. With her power activated, she declares that this is her life's purpose. Inori just watches her sideways, analyzing his former master's new stance. Suddenly, a small smile begins to form on his face. With an excited expression, he grins broadly, revealing sharp fangs. Seeing his reaction, Egiana comments that he seems to be enjoying this. Covering his mouth, he admits he underestimated her and apologizes for the disrespect. Staring at her seriously, he warns that there will be no more lies or tricks. He says it's only fair to be honest with her at this decisive moment. Immediately after, the soldiers on the ground start screaming. Looking at them, Egiana explains that those are bodies that cannot be saved. Surrounded by his soldiers, Inori admits that he basically killed all her companions. Pointing in her direction, he says her job is different now. He then reveals that her mission is to become food for them. With a serious look, she calls his name, acknowledging what he has become. Hearing her words, Inori stares at her with a look of great expectation. Suddenly, her sword begins to react violently. Standing there, she unleashes a power that affects every creature nearby. She calls him her nemesis, as the power repels all enemies. Inori is surprised by the ability she just unleashed. Flying away, he observes the result of her attack from above. He realizes she is much more dangerous than he initially imagined. Staring him down, she readies herself while he questions if that is an artifact. Creating a shield of shadows, he laments that his army was instantly defeated. She stares back with a look of pure determination, ready to fight. Seeing that, he celebrates that those are exactly the eyes he wanted to see. Egiana maintains her firm stance, facing her opponent without backing down a single step. Summoning his wolves and blades, he calls her by her full name, Egiana Eche. He then shouts that as her nemesis, he will fight with everything he has. With a determined gaze, she steels herself for the battle ahead. Nearby, a hand bursts from the ground as a soldier screams. Gripping her sword tightly, she prepares to unleash another attack. She strikes, destroying every enemy surrounding her. Smiling, Inori announces that he still controls her former comrades. Through the smoke, the silhouette of a battle sister emerges. Transformed, the two furiously charge their former commander. Seeing her friends, Egiana turns away, her expression serious and resolved. A flashback shows them smiling, just as they were before everything changed. Back in the fight, she attacks again with a vertical sword strike. She spins, hitting the enemies with a sweeping area attack. Egiana keeps attacking Inori's shadows. She slices through every shadow coming at her from behind. She turns and asks if he plans to just watch the fight. Surrounded by foes, she warns that she'll come after him if he won't fight. Seeing her power is intact, he decides to avoid a direct confrontation for the moment. In another flashback, Aaliyah wonders how Egiana is so powerful. Nala explains that she was already strong and received an artifact from the Royal Majesty. She reveals it's a sword that gains cutting power through mana. Back in the fight, Egiana charges, cutting down a soldier. She continues her assault, defeating multiple enemies at once with her blade. Trying to stop her, Inori fires a barrage of shadow blades. With a single spin, she slices through every approaching blade. All his shadow blades are completely destroyed by the commander's precise attack. Surprised, Inori comments on the absurd cutting power of her artifact. Her sword remains steady, ready for the next clash. Smiling, he realizes that blade can cut through anything. Gathering power in her hand, she announces she's skipping the magic circle this time. She unleashes her air hammer attack, causing a massive explosion in the courtyard. Caught off guard, he stares at her, confused. Dodging debris, he wonders how she cast magic out of thin air. She warns him he can no longer fly and asks for his next move. Running along the wall, he decides to fight up close and try a new tactic. He launches shadow blades to distract her. As she deflects them, Inori moves nimbly along the courtyard wall. Grabbing a blade mid-air, he changes direction to surprise her. He advances with a quick flank attack, looking for an opening. Appearing behind her, he shouts that he finally caught her off guard, but hanging upside down, he realizes his attack failed completely. She hits him squarely, cutting his hand and stopping his assault. He retreats quickly, clutching his arm after the heavy blow. Gaining distance, he comments he was sure the surprise attack would work. Seeing her standing amid the dust, he realizes she seems to have eyes everywhere. Egiana notes his agility and suggests he become an acrobat. He thanks her for the suggestion, but says it's not for him. Seeing the mithril sword, he understands the magic explosion. Smiling, he comments that mithril weapons are effective against demons. She confirms this and asks if the second princess taught him that. Looking away, he simply thanks her for the compliment. Suddenly, she stomps hard on the shadow right next to her. A dagger suddenly emerges from the shadow, attempting a quick strike. Dodging at high speed, she destroys the surprise attack from below. Inori stares, completely surprised by her dodging speed. Seeing the broken dagger, she praises his creative use of abilities. Standing beneath the moon, she asks for his next move. Kneeling, Inori says he has a question for her. She looks back with curiosity, asking what he wants to know. He notes that she reacted instantly to an attack from her blind spot. He surmises she enveloped the training field in a thin layer of mana. Inori concludes this allows her to detect enemies and asks if he's right. Looking at him, she confirms that is his detection power. He comments that his detection was unnecessary, but she firmly denies it. She explains that the method exposes her to enemies, making it poor for tracking. Egiana then points to mana lines on the ground, saying she sees them too. Surprised, Inori admits her perception is impressive. He shouts the skill name Gleipnir and unleashes a chain attack. With a single sword strike, she severs all the surrounding chains. They are completely undone by the power of her mithril blade. He smiles, realizing her sword can cut even that skill. Egiana stares seriously, advancing to continue close combat. Then, she senses danger rapidly approaching her position. An ice attack hits the ground, causing massive destruction. On the wall, an energy creature materializes to continue the assault. Revealing its form, the creature resembles a giant wolf of pure blue energy. From a distance, Inori wonders if the long-range attack worked. Looking at the wolf, Egiana asks if it's another one of his familiars. She praises the strategy, but warns that she can nullify long-range attacks. Frustrated, he admits her reaction speed is otherworldly. Using her sword, Egiana prepares another air hammer against the new enemy. The impact destroys the wall exactly where the wolf stood. Inori orders them to keep their distance and attack ceaselessly. Shadow blades fire at high speed toward her. Inori and his familiar coordinate their attack against the commander. Defending against the blows, she warns that his tactic won't last long. He realizes she doesn't look fatigued at all. A soldier is struck down, cut by her attack in the courtyard. Realizing he's running out of resources, he needs a way to turn the tide. He analyzes the detection area, noting the mana layer covering everything. Egiana is a strong fighter who can even cut his chains. Her absurd reaction speed allows her to counter distant attacks easily. Decided, he concludes he must fight up close and evade her detection. He positions himself to put his plan into action. With a determined look, he convinces himself he must succeed. Going for all or nothing, he charges for a direct, decisive confrontation. Seeing his approach, she realizes he chose melee combat. Calling him predictable, she asks if he thought she'd be defenseless. She activates a defensive barrier he didn't expect. With a confident smile, she strikes him with a quick sword blow. The impact of the blow causes his arm to dissolve into the air. Totally surprised, he stares at the wound, his heart pounding. Declaring it over, she tells Inori the fight is finished. She warns that the mithril blade will prevent his regeneration. Smiling, Inori retorts that this isn't the end for him. Suddenly, a shadow emerges from the ground right behind the commander. Grabbing her leg, the shadow holds her firmly in place. Caught off guard, she finds herself surrounded by other shadow creatures. He reveals that his shadow can attack without triggering her detection. Hesitating, she debates whether to attack the shadow or Inori first. Seeing Inori defenseless, she decides to attack him to end the fight. Suddenly, she stops, completely surprised by what she sees. His arm regenerating, Inori charges toward her for a counterattack. Smiling, he asks if she really underestimated him during the battle. Frustrated, she wonders if he's immune to everything but mithril. In a flash, he He prepares to charge at her again, then he stops abruptly, right in front of her detection sphere. Surprised, she realizes he stopped just outside her range. Smiling, Inori remarks that their eyes have finally met in the courtyard. He activates his demon eye, casting a magic circle hypnosis on her. Her eyes freeze for an instant, trapped by his ability. Reacting quickly, she destroys the magic circle with a single sword stroke. He laughs, surprised her sword can even cut through magic. Inori orders his Gleipnir ability to shrink and bind the commander. One of his shadows advances along the ground toward her leg. The creature seizes the opening and slashes Elpe's leg. Confused by the attack, she looks down and asks what that was. Grinning, Inori replies that he has absolutely no idea. She asks why he's smiling. He says it's because he's having fun. Asking if she isn't having fun too, he stares at her with a grin. With a confident look, she answers that maybe she is having a little fun. Hearing her response, he smiles broadly, accepting her challenge. Then he yells that here he comes, leaping in to resume close combat. She defends against swift attacks coming from all directions. Pushing forward, he says it's best to end the fight right now. He adjusts his glove with his teeth, preparing his next ability. Soon after, a massive magic circle materializes right in front of the commander. Seeing the circle, she says she'll just cut straight through it with her sword. Suddenly, Inori bursts through the circle, appearing right in front of her. Out of time to react, she stares at him, totally paralyzed by what happened. Revealing his plan, he says he knew she approached the attack. Seizing the chance, he grabs her face to immobilize her. Wearing a wild expression, he opens his mouth to bite her neck. Sensing the danger, she realizes the situation has gone very bad. With her wounded leg, she realizes she can't move or dodge. Seeing it's all or nothing, she decides to play her final card. She focuses power into her arm, preparing for the air hammer. Unleashing the magic, she uses the ability with all her remaining strength. Due to the force of the attack, her own arm begins to crack from the impact. Surprised by the action, Inori wonders if she aimed the magic at herself. Realizing the tactic, he understands she used the magic on her own arm. The energy explosion hits him, throwing him far away. Struck by the blow, his body begins to crumble from the impact. With one last move, she hits him squarely, knocking him high into the air. As he flies through the air, he shouts her name, Egiana, with great force. At that moment, her arm completely shatters. Filled with fury, she screams his name back with fierce determination. Falling hard, his body crashes violently against the courtyard floor. Even wounded, she stands victorious, facing the aftermath of the hard battle. Moving along the ground, a shadow creature attacks the wounded commander. Leaping high, Inori's familiar advances on her for an attack. At the last instant, she manages to create an energy cut to defend herself. With a sword strike, she sabers the attacking familiar's head. Hit squarely, the familiar begins to completely dissolve in midair. Lying on the ground, Inori stares at her, surprised by the battle's final outcome. Looking down at him, she tells Inori Takafuji to finally rest in peace. Under the night sky, the full moon illuminates the scene of total destruction. Amidst the bodies, her sword remains firmly planted in the courtyard floor. Holding Inori's helmet, she observes the result of the hard battle fought. Looking to the sky, she thinks she cannot stop despite being exhausted. Suddenly, strange energy flies swiftly through the castle's night sky. Holding the dissolving helmet, she says she needs to eliminate the second target. Surprised by something, she looks up with an expression of total shock. Inori's body on the ground begins to move, covered in shadows. Complaining about his head, his heart starts beating again with great force. Standing up, he says his head is nothing more than a simple accessory for him. Disbelieving, she turns and faces the newly regenerated enemy. He then lands a powerful punch on the wall, breaking everything around him. The impact throws her forcefully against the wall, which cracks. Trapped in the rubble, she lets out a groan of pain, watching him from afar. With a wounded face, she assesses the situation, her left eye bleeding heavily. Holding his own head, Inori places it back onto his neck. Then he adjusts his head and tests his voice to see if it's working. Seeing that everything is fine, he says it seems there are no problems. Not understanding, she asks how he survived, since she cut him with her sword. He explains that mithril might work against demons belonging to that world. Looking at the sky, he says that rule only applies here. Shocked by the revelation, she stares at him, unable to believe what she heard. He reveals he confirmed the theory when her sword cut his arm. Realizing the tactic, she praises the good strategy of not regenerating his arm. Inori just observes her sideways, showing no reaction to her praise. His theory was that the brain wouldn't be a vital organ for a vampire. Remembering the fight with Fenrir, he says the spine didn't affect him either. Exhausted, she finally admits defeat, saying she was beaten in battle. He replies humbly that he only managed to win because he got lucky against her. In the end, she admits she lacked experience, and he just agrees with her. He says she knew, regretting having given his all in that fight. With a weak laugh, She agrees she also managed to notice his effort. Inori then stares at her in silence for a moment, observing the battle's end. Defeated and wounded, Egiana just stares back, without strength to continue. Approaching, he warns that he will take all her strength for himself. Showing his sharp fangs, he prepares to deliver the final bite to her. Under the full moon, he says goodbye, leaving the fight courtyard empty. Switching to the dungeon, Inori stops in front of a prisoner cell. Inside, Ryuto and the girls get scared hearing footsteps approaching them. Getting close to the bars, Ryuto hears a voice say he looks like trash. He just stares down the hallway, with an expression of tiredness and total exhaustion. Inori then reveals himself, saying he brought an artifact to open the cell. Standing up, Ryuto's friends say they were worried about his disappearance. Using his power, he warns that they should be worried about themselves. Seeing their reaction, Ryuto shouts, asking what he just did. Asking them to relax, he advises that he won't hurt them at all. When the door opens, Inori tells Ryuto he can leave now. Ryuto stares at him, completely paralyzed and unable to move from the cell floor. As Ryuto remains motionless, he suddenly screams, surprising Inori that he's conscious. Inori concludes that hypnosis works, but its effect varies with willpower. Placing his hand on Aoi's head, he announces he has a job for everyone. Then he does the same with Tamaki, keeping both under his total control. Looking at them, he orders that they need to clean up all that mess for him. Shocked by the order, Ryuto stares at Inori, not grasping what he just said. Handing the staff to Tamaki, Inori tells her to say he died right there. He orders her to burn down the entire castle, but she doubts she can do it. Inori encourages her, saying she holds back too much and needs to let loose. Ryuto protests the order, trying to stop them, but Inori calls for the barrier. With the staff's power, Tamaki declares she'll reduce everything to ashes. Desperate, Ryuto screams for her to wait, fearing there might still be survivors inside. She tells him not to worry, assuring him she can handle everything. Ryuto yells a desperate "No!" trying to stop his friend from doing something crazy. Suddenly, the artifact in her hands releases intense power. Meanwhile, a castle hallway remains silent right before the great destruction. Then, a massive explosion of fire consumes everything, completely destroying the castle. Viewed from outside, the castle windows violently burst into flames everywhere. Immediately after, the entire castle is consumed by the fire of the great explosion. Protected by the barrier, Inori comments on her power and the heat of the blast. Seeing her power, he acknowledges the impressive strength of a hero's blessing. He watches the scene, analyzing the power released by his hypnotized ally. Turning to Ryuto, he sends him on a mission to tell the truth. From afar, the people watch the castle being consumed by flames. Many city citizens watch the destruction happening on the distant hill. Pointing at the fire, residents gather to witness the castle's fall. Aaliyah continues watching the burning castle. Determined, she starts walking toward the fire, taking over the place. A slight smile forms on her face as she approaches the site. Seeing the wreckage, she remembers her sister, Amanda. The image of Amanda smiling appears, bringing back a strong memory for the princess. Then she remembers her maid, Nala, with fondness and a smile. The remains of the burning crown bring back memories of her royal parents. Remembering her father and mother, she faces the fire with determination. With closed eyes, she seems to prepare for what's coming next. In a flashback, Aaliyah appears smiling against a clear, peaceful background. Back in the present, Aaliyah opens her eyes, now glowing vampire red. Her dark hair flutters, revealing red streaks that appeared after the transformation. Walking through the fire, she emerges from the flames with newfound power. Finding Inori in the forest, he asks if she's satisfied with the result. Looking at him, she confirms it and asks how he is after the battle. She then reveals that his blood brought with it all his knowledge and thoughts. Turning, she comments that the blood also ended up changing her hair color. He questions if the change in priority is a side effect of becoming a familiar. She says she feels linked to him and cannot disobey his orders. Extending her hand, she asks him to give her his hand right there, but Inori gets slapped across the face. Yet, he says he's sure the situation isn't bad. With a small smile, she stares at him, now with vampire fangs in her mouth. Sitting on the ground, Inori says that new color also suits her very well. Aaliyah stares at him in silence for a moment, processing her new reality. Rubbing his face, Inori seems to reflect on the situation between the two of them. With a faint smile, she watches him. He agrees, saying she gained life, freedom, and other things from the transformation. She then completes his thought, stating that above all, she now has a goal. Inori listens, surprised, as she says her goal is to get stronger. Turning away, she warns that she will surpass him to win her true freedom someday. He just watches her, understanding the challenge he just received from his familiar. With a smile, he says he understands, and that the game has finally begun. Adjusting himself, Inori prepares to take the next step in his grand plan. He then invites his former princess to head to the base of operations. Surprised, she asks when he established a base for the two of them. He replies that it's a long story, but the place is quite safe. Suddenly, a strange energy begins to envelop them, right there in the dark forest. Looking around, she gets scared by the sudden change in the forest's environment. Inori explains that this was Fenrir's area, and they are going to train there. Seeing the hut, she asks when he built it, but he says it was always there. She then asks if the hut is a weapon, and he says yes. Sitting on the bed, he hears her complain that the room is too small. With a smile, Inori warns her that it's her new life and she needs to get used to it. She stares at him in silence for a moment, processing her new reality. Laying her head on his shoulder, she says she never considered herself royalty. With a blushing face, she says she doesn't mind sleeping next to him. Looking at him, she says she wants to settle the debt she owes him. Inori stares at her seriously, listening intently to what she had to say. She explains that this is the only way she found to pay her debt. Without saying a word, he just watches her, analyzing the determination in her eyes. Saying she's ready, she leans on him, surprising Inori himself. He then orders her to take off her clothes with a small smile on his face. Blushing, she closes her eyes, preparing to follow the order. While taking off her cloak, she asks if that is already enough for him, but he activates his demon eye of vision, totally ignoring her question. Using his weapon creation ability, he runs his hand over her fabric. Energy particles wrap around his hand, completely transforming the cloak she was wearing before. After an instant, he calmly announces that the process is finally finished. Aaliyah then looks at herself, seeing that she is now wearing a totally new outfit. Confused by the result, she hears him say her mind was dirty. Remembering her fallen body, he says she misunderstood their connection. Smiling, he teases her, saying he has the right to choose his partner. Holding the new clothes, she admits he really has a lot of confidence in that. Totally embarrassed by the situation, she doesn't know what to say or how to react. Unable to hide it, she stammers and acts completely awkward in front of him. Thanking him for the clothes, she runs outside to change quickly. Sitting on the bed, Inori comments that she is definitely much more expressive now. Sometime later, outside the hut, the mood changes. On the porch, Aaliyah watches the night in silence, lost in deep thoughts. Lamenting the situation, she tells herself she just got rejected by him. Then she questions herself, thinking there were other ways to show her determination. Looking at the distant fire, she continues reflecting on her true feelings. She concludes that perhaps she wanted to be punished for abandoning her nation and surviving. Hearing the conversation, his voice asks if sleeping with him is a punishment. Startled, she turns and finds Inori standing at the door, listening to the whole conversation. With a calm look, he admits her comment hurt a little. Asking him to ignore everything, she thanks him for saving her life. Saying he doesn't trust her, he listens as she tries desperately to explain herself. She then admits she gave up her humanity to keep living, but she firmly declares she has no regrets about her choice. Hearing the declaration, Inori just watches her with a serious, thoughtful look. Then he asks if she would help him with an experiment, and she accepts readily. Showing the ability, he says he stole a skill that's hard to learn alone. The skill, he reveals while gesturing with his hands, is the intimacy skill. Not understanding, she repeats his words, questioning what he just said. Suddenly advancing, he says he can level up the skill by touching her. He warns it will be fast, and definitely better than sleeping with him. Yelling at him, she tells him not to speak so casually and calls him scary. He reminds her of the promise to help with anything. From afar, she calls him a demon, but he replies that he's a vampire. A list of skills fills the screen, covering everything from combat to household tasks. Soaring through the sky, the character demonstrates even more diverse abilities. Sitting in the forest, he makes a decision. He's going to level up every single one. He shouts for Aaliyah, telling her to come down from the sky. She lands swiftly in front of him, answering his call immediately. Her special ability, Genius, is revealed right after. Watching her, he notes that her flying has improved significantly. He asks about her clothes, and she replies they're quite comfortable. He then realizes that, unlike him, the sun doesn't affect her. He hands her a sword and asks her to unsheath it right there. Steadiest hand on the hilt, she begins to draw the blade. Holding the weapon, she's impressed and asks if he created it. He explains that he only improved the sword, which surprises her. She recognizes the artifact as the one used by Commander Eche. He reveals the problem. The sword unfortunately won't obey him. She asks if that means he can't use any of the artifacts. That's why he's giving the sword to her, since she can actually use it. She asks if he's sure, warning him that this could make her stronger. Smiling, he tells her to go ahead. He doesn't need weapons. She asks if his definition of strength includes weapons, and he replies, maybe. He begins to explain, she is a human native to this world. Because of that, she can use magic but can't learn new skills. She finishes his thought. Since he came from another world, he gains skills but can't use magic. They propose a competition, and he claims he'll win by leveling up. But then he reveals she has a way to level up too, which makes her curious. Pointing to her teeth, she says that's how she gains power. He realizes she drains blood, and she confirms she copied him to get stronger. Saying it's settled, he tells her they need to prepare to leave. She remarks that he was actually just waiting for the little creature to recover. A creature appears and apologizes, saying it should have recovered faster. He tells it not to worry. The sacrifice was meant to lower their guard. Seeing the creature, she asks who it is. He replies that it's Fenrir. She immediately hugs him tightly. He warns her just wait until Fenrir is fully recovered. Suddenly, the creature dives into a puddle and vanishes from sight. Seeing him flee, she calls out for Fenny, begging him to come back. Saddened, she remains crouched, staring at the spot where he disappeared. Noticing her reaction, he just watches her silently for a moment. He asks if she likes animals. She reveals she used to care for Amanda's pets. He tells her they'll be leaving tonight, and she asks for their destination. He replies they don't have a specific place in mind. He just wants somewhere to gather information. He then asks if there's any country that doesn't summon heroes. She says no. He receives the news in silence, just processing what he heard. She confirms that he won't find a single nation that doesn't perform summons. He shouts, thinking it's a joke, but she tells him the 12 nations are legally obligated to do so. Hearing the truth, he's devastated, looking up at the sky, speechless. He questions if that number of heroes isn't overkill. In total, there are 36 heroes scattered across that entire world. The scene shifts to a city, where the hero Masayoshi Date suddenly looks behind him. Elsewhere, 2 more summoned individuals are shown together. Another group also appears gathered somewhere in the kingdom. Inori states that it's impossible to be safer than right there. A flashback reveals demons and beastmen being sacrificed in a ritual. Alongside them, elves, dwarves, and humans are also offered up for the ceremony. A woman shouts for the offerings to be accepted and for them to return. Raising a skull, the summoning ritual finally reaches its climax. Slowly, parts of the entity's body begin to manifest. Once the body is complete, the woman celebrates the successful summoning. One of the sacrificed men extends his hand with his last ounce of strength. Opening his eyes, he cries out for the demonic majesty known as Ignoa. Back in the present, someone steps down from a carriage in the city. Aaliyah walks through the area, passing a bustling market. Crowds of people are buying and selling at street stalls. A vendor calls out to her, offering her some bread. He insists, saying it's a treat for her help last time. Right after, someone else hands her a bag full of vegetables. Accepting the gifts, she thanks everyone for their immense kindness. People call her Allie as she continues receiving gifts from the city's residents. She narrates that a lot of time has passed since they first arrived. Describing the location, she notes the energy and the brick streets. As a sacred nation, the city houses a large number of clerics. Carrying the bags, she walks through the city toward a large building. To survive, they ended up joining the local adventurers guild. She reveals that Inori goes by the codename Kiri, and that she does all the actual work. Arriving home, she calls out to Kiri that she's back. Suddenly, something smashes through the doors with tremendous force. Inori is launched outside, flying through the air right in front of her. He takes a direct hit and is violently thrown from the building. Flying uncontrollably, he crashes into a structure, shattering it completely. On the ground, he cries out to Allie for help, calling him Kiri. Watching the scene, a woman named Fana smiles sinisterly. She asks if he's still conscious, noting that it was a heavy blow. She remarks that for a guy like him, he certainly has potential. While he's lying on the ground, she yells loudly that she really likes him. Introducing herself, she promises to set him on the path of righteousness. With a quick movement, she grabs him by the collar and hauls him up. Holding him close to her face, both look completely confused by the situation. From a distance, Aaliyah watches the scene, standing perfectly still and silent. The narration states that this was the first city of their journey. Showing the food, the narration recalls the first task they ever undertook. Next, the image shows the first acquaintance they made there. She concludes that all of this marked the beginning of her new life. Going by the name Kiri, he's seen knocking back a drink inside the guild hall. Finishing his drink, he lets out a loud, shameless burp, not caring in the slightest. Witnessing the scene, the other guild members react with utter disgust. He claims he's just been living like a bum, doing nothing but eating and drinking. When asked about payment, he tells them to put it all on Allie's tab. Meanwhile, Aaliyah was rapidly climbing the ranks, completing guild requests left and right. Over time, she even earned the nickname Allie, the Black Rose. People started calling her that after seeing her fight against demons. Thanks to her hard work, He can drink all day without a care in the world. The other members wonder why the Black Rose even bothers working with him. An older man then advises him to stop taking advantage of the girl, telling him to get a job. The man hears Kiri just tell him to get lost. It's then revealed that this man is the only one who actually talks to him. From Kiri's perspective, the old guy just sits with him because he has nothing better to do. But in reality, he's there to build up his resistance and gather intelligence. Even without gaining useful info, he notices his poison resistance is increasing. Just then, the door chime rings, announcing a new arrival. Immediately after, the priestess Fana enters the guild bearing a smile. Surprised by the visit, he wonders what she could be doing there. Ignoring the warnings, he calls her over to sit and drink with him. Declining the invitation, she advises him not to drink too much lest he harm himself. He then notices a peculiar mark on the hat she's wearing. So, he asks her to come closer so he can get a better look at the mark. Getting up from his chair, he advances toward her to try and see the symbol. She warns him that the insignia is sacred and not something to toy with. With her hand on his shoulder, he stops, not understanding what just happened. Outside, Aaliyah finally arrives and starts calling for Kiri. At that moment, a loud boom startles everyone inside the guild hall. Thrown to the floor, he admits he might have approached her the wrong way. Standing in the street, Aaliyah just watches the whole scene unfold before her eyes. Holding his face, Fana stares closely at him while Aaliyah watches on. Seeing this, the guild members cheer that he finally got what was coming to him. They shout for her to teach him a lesson, and she confirms she will. Being held down, he says that God never truly abandons his children. Then she throws him over her shoulder, yelling that they will march in his name. But halfway there, she stops and turns toward Aaliyah. Looking at the girl, she asks if there's anything she wants to say. With a hesitant expression, Aaliyah tries to find the right words. She then asks what the priestess intends to do with her partner. Fana explains that he hit on her, but that he has courage and a future. Hearing the explanation, Aaliyah remains still, just processing the information. Carrying him away, Fana declares she's going to pull him out of that miserable life. Standing at the door, the guild members watch the duo depart. They then say Aaliyah is free and invite her to form a party. Without responding, she just grabs the food bags with a serious look. Offering food, they insist Aaliyah accept their gifts. Turning her back on everyone, she refuses to take a single item. Breaking into a run, she bolts down the street after Fana and Kiri. Watching her leave, they wonder what she actually sees in that guy. Changing scenes, they arrive in front of a large religious building in the city. With a quick movement, Fana forcefully throws Kiri onto a nearby bench. Touching his face, she prepares to use some kind of ability. Extending her hand toward him, she says this will make him feel better. Placing her hand on his face, she activates her ability, and he screams. As his body recovers, the effects of the booze wear off instantly. She asks if he's better, advising him not to drink so much alcohol. Remembering nothing, he asks who she is, and she introduces herself. She tells him to call her Fana, or Master if he prefers. Grabbing his hand firmly, she invites him to come along quickly. Pulling him toward the building, she announces it's time for them to pray. Hidden, Aaliyah is surprised to see the two are already holding hands. Watching the scene, she wonders why they seem so close all of a sudden. Peeking around the wall, she continues following the pair with a suspicious gaze. She questions if this is how commoner relationships work. Reaching a conclusion, she tells herself that woman is dangerous. Just then, Feni suddenly appears from the ground, completely startling the girl. Meanwhile, Fana notices Aaliyah carries the strong scent of God's blessing. Not understanding the situation, Aaliyah questions what this God's blessing is. Feni says she thought she was following because she felt the blessing, and she agrees. Inside the church, Fana comments on the size of the place and calls him lucky. Smiling, she waits for him to say something about her comment. She then asks his name, and he replies that he is called Kiri. Looking forward, he attentively observes one of the statues on the altar. Curious about the figure, he asks the priestess what it is. Standing before the altar, they face the great statue of the supreme deity. Fana explains she's going to teach him to pray, asking him to pay attention. Clasping her hands, she shows the gesture symbolizing the 5 goddesses of the faith. After showing him, she asks him to close his eyes and pray along. Not quite understanding the situation, he decides to just do as he was told. With eyes closed, he remembers he's never been much of a praying person, but suddenly, he feels a different presence in that mental prayer space. A mysterious female figure suddenly opens her eyes in front of everyone. Looking at him, the goddess seems to have finally awakened from her long sleep. Feeling a strange presence, he opens his eyes, completely freaked out by the situation. He wonders what that is, feeling he's connected to someone. Questioning if she's responsible, he focuses his attention on the priestess, but he soon realizes it's not her. As his detection finds no one, he then feels as if someone is looking straight into his soul. Angry at the invasion, he clenches his teeth hard. Ordering the invader to leave, He shouts that he invited no one in. A force then pushes the presence away from him all at once. Being thrown backward, he feels his body crash against something. With the connection finally broken, he starts returning to reality. Back in the church, Fana says she didn't expect such a profound prayer. She then states she's moving to the next stage, happy he prayed. Still confused by everything, he just stares at the ceiling, saying nothing. His gaze then turns once again to the great statue on the altar. Up close, the statue seems to have a very serene smile on its face. Even with the connection gone, he wonders what that mysterious power he felt was. Looking back, he feels he'll end up returning to that place someday. Up close, the deity's statue shows some small cracks on its ancient face. Shifting to the divine plane, a woman comments that he managed to break through the path. Then the other goddess agrees, saying she didn't know a human was capable of that. Seen from afar, the planet floats in the vastness of the space surrounding them. Here the 5 goddesses are revealed, and one of them speaks the name Inori Takafuji. The door chime announces his arrival at the Adventurers Guild. He walks in slowly, looking utterly exhausted. The guild members stare in surprise as he approaches. He reaches the counter and asks the old man if there's still room for him. With a sideways glance, the man welcomes him back. He comments that they finally made a man out of him. Inori agrees. Flashback. Fana winds up for a punch. Charging in, she lands a solid blow right to his face. Yelling at him to brace himself, she continues her assault. Then, she buries a powerful hook deep into his stomach. Taken completely by surprise, he remembers her introduction, Templar Knight. Fana resets her stance, ready to continue his intensive training. With a determined look, he prepares to counter the priestess's strikes. Dodging narrowly, he manages to block one of her incoming punches. She praises his defense but says his physical stats can't keep up. Impressed, he comments that she's already figured him out completely. Saying she can help with that, she hits him again with another hard punch. Hidden away, Aaliyah watches him beg for a timeout, claiming Fana is going to kill him. She asks if they shouldn't intervene just as Fana knocks him out cold. Feni explains that their orders are clear. The master has a plan. Hearing this, Aaliyah continues watching in silence. Taking advantage of a moment of distraction, he makes a run for it. Back at the guild, the old man listens intently to the whole story. He says he's impressed that Inori managed to escape. Inori replies that he's never run so fast in his life. With a bruised face, he mentions her title, Templar Knight. It's revealed they use artifacts to fight demons in battle. The man explains that without artifacts, there isn't much Inori can do. Pointing at the man, Inori starts to say that's exactly it. Finishing his sentence, he says that's exactly what he thought. Stopping suddenly, he asks how the man knew he didn't use artifacts. Suddenly, Fana appears, shouting that she found him, scaring him half to death. Grabbing his head, she announces that recess is over while he begs for help. Dragging him outside, she's already planning the next session while he screams. He yells back at the old man, saying he thought they were friends. Ignoring the cries, the old man just keeps drinking, not caring at all. Lying on the ground, he looks completely exhausted, drained of energy. In the middle of the forest, Fana wakes him up, insisting the training must continue. She shouts that he can't get stronger if he keeps stalling. Then, at his request, the two end up going to the church again. With a bright smile, Fana shows she's happy with his initiative. She says she's touched, and he replies he's happy to serve. Behind a fake smile, he reveals his true plan: rest and investigate. Once there, he walks through the main hall calmly and attentively. Standing in front of the statue, he notices that the previous sensation has disappeared. Glancing sideways, he observes his mentor and the other praying clerics. He remembers his detection failed before, wondering if it's a power unique to this world. So, he uses an otherworldly ability to scan the entire room. Passing over the clerics, the analysis finds nothing suspicious about them or their items. Checking the floor and ceiling, he finds nothing strange either. But suddenly, he realizes the statue is holding something hidden. Focusing his ability, he shouts in his mind that he finally found the source of it all. Between the statue's hands, his analysis reveals a large crystal. It's the Divine Shine gem. He wonders if this is how deities connect with their followers. Thinking for a moment, he deduces there are 5 goddesses, and the one he met isn't one of them. He realizes that, unintentionally, he just managed to irritate the local pantheon. Even with the risk, he concludes the church visit was well worth it. Pointing at a man, he gets Fana's attention. She asks what's wrong. Sitting among the clerics, a knight watches the movement in the hall. Keeping a serious posture, the man remains still, observing everyone intently. Fana recognizes him as Sir Raven, the famous hero of Legion City. She explains he's a living legend for protecting the city 10 years ago. Seeing the knight, he finally understands that this is her superior officer. Saying she'll go greet him, she asks Inori to go on ahead and says goodbye. After walking away, she heads toward the captain of the Templar Knights. Observing the hero, Inori decides to use his ability to identify him better. But suddenly, the man seems to sense the scan and reacts immediately. Seeing the knight's reaction, he wonders if he just got blown. Even without being certain, he notes the man's reaction confirms something. As she approaches, Fana asks Sir Raven if something is wrong. With his gaze fixed on Inori, the knight says he smells something. He reveals it's the scent of his people as he watches Inori leave. Cut to training. A powerful blow shatters the ground with immense force. From afar, Aaliyah observes his grueling regimen, which never stops for a second. She narrates that since that day, Inori hasn't stopped training. With a thoughtful look, she notes that it's been a while since they talked. Dodging barely in time, he escapes the attack of a large combat artifact. Fana praises his dodge, asking where he learned to fight like that. Thanking her for the compliment, he says Egiana taught him how to deal with them. Saying that only defending is boring, she asks if he's good with weapons. Pausing for a moment, he considers the question. Showing his black magic, he impresses Fana, but then denies using it. Smiling, Fana says the conversation just gave her an idea. Almost getting hit, he gets scared by the blow. She then says she wants him to buy a weapon that suits him. Mentioning she has a meeting, she tells him to consider it a day off. Giving him money, she orders him to spend it all on a new weapon. As the sun sets, she warns him she'll inspect the purchase later. Sitting on the roof, Aaliyah watches the sunset next to Inori. He asks if she found any weaknesses in his training. Looking at him, she says she didn't find a single weakness to exploit. Unconvinced, he asks if she found nothing even with Fenrir watching. The two then fall silent for a moment, just sitting side by side. Breaking the silence, she asks what he wants to resolve with her up there. He asks if she's free tomorrow because he needs to buy a weapon. Smiling, he invites her to go shopping with him the next day. Explaining the invitation, he says she knows the shops way better than he does. He adds he can go alone if she's busy with something. Super excited, she guarantees she'll go with him since she has no requests at the moment. All happy, she asks what he would do in this world without her help. Then she says they should go back to the room to prepare for the day. Grabbing his hand tightly, she gets ready to take him away. Pulling him across the roof, she denies being excited and tells him to hurry up. The next day, Aaliyah showed up with a subtle smile. Walking through town, she pointed out street food, trying to get his attention. He reminded her they had a specific purpose for being there. Embarrassed, she agreed, remembering the main goal of their outing. She assured him she knew where to find a weapon shop and led the way. Inside, they started looking for a new weapon to buy. Various arms were displayed on the wall for customers. Surprised, he remarked that she'd brought him to a good store. She replied it was a recommendation. Analyzing the weapons, he used his ability to see their stats. She asked if anything interested him, and he explained they were all artifacts. Showing him a scythe, she suggested it, but he immediately refused. With a sad look, she lamented, thinking it was perfect for him. He then suggested she take the opportunity to buy a new weapon for herself. Looking at her dark edge, she agreed she needed something more discreet. She wondered if she'd find something cheap and easy to use. Inside a box, a special dagger was shown to them. Eyeing the item, he prepared to take a closer look. Picking up the dagger, he identified it as pure mithril. His analysis revealed it was a high-purity magical support weapon. She worried about the price, but he said he had money from his hunts. Deciding to buy it, he mentioned his only expenses were food and drink. Hearing this, she fell silent, just observing the moment. With the purchase finalized, the clerk thanked them for their business. Outside again, he regretted not finding a weapon for himself. She asked if he knew the meaning behind the dagger he bought. Confused, he asked if the weapon had some special hidden significance. Smiling, she looked at him, a bit embarrassed. She told him he'd have to figure out the answer himself. Walking down the street, they found another weapon shop that looked abandoned. Peeking inside, she saw a large spider web in the corner. From the back of the shop, a voice said the spider wouldn't bite. Surprised, he remained silent, trying to grasp the situation. Inside, a man stood waiting in the middle of the shop. Welcoming them, he greeted them. Standing at the entrance, the pair stared at the shop owner. He explained that he specialized in making custom weapons for clients. Hearing the explanation, he stood still, analyzing the man's words. Then he asked if the man could make weapons that weren't artifacts. Glancing sideways, he prepared a question for the owner. Decided, he said he wanted to place an order, surprising Aaliyah with his speed. Thanking him for the trust, the owner bowed to his new client. Asking him to follow, the man said he needed to evaluate him first. He asked if Aaliyah could come along to watch the assessment. With a calm look, the owner said she could join them. He suggested that cleaning the entrance might attract more customers. Revealing the reason, the owner said the web was a spider's home. The seller apologized for the inconvenience and thanked them for their compassion. Sitting in a cafe, the two rested after a day of shopping. Having a drink, he took the moment to relax and talk with her. He commented that the weapon search took longer than expected. Disagreeing, she said she thought they managed everything quite quickly. Suddenly, she looked surprised, eyes wide with admiration. Saying the tea was great, she startled him with her exaggerated reaction. She said she was enjoying it because of the location and atmosphere. Overlooking the city, she revealed she'd always wanted to relax and have tea there. He asked why she hadn't gone alone, and she said she wanted company. She then asked why he chose that shop, and he explained he used his ability. He revealed the displayed weapons were high quality, which is why he entered. Glancing sideways, he remarked the owner needed to improve his sales pitch. Fana suddenly appeared, asking if he bought the weapon she requested. Surprising them both, she said she'd been looking everywhere for him. He asked about the captain. She said she already found him and questioned him. Surprised by the accusation, Aaliyah instantly became flustered and blushed. Jumping over the railing, Fana heard Aaliyah say they were just friends. A masked knight arrived, asking Fana to use the stairs next time. Apologizing, Fana listened as the knight reminded her that devotees must be exemplary. He then introduced himself to Kiri as Mask, the priestess's watcher. Inori asked if his mentor had done something wrong. She explained the church doubted their relationship, even though she claimed otherwise. Explaining the Templar code, the knight left Inori very confused by the situation. He mentioned city rumors about the adventurer Ali and her partner Kiri. Hearing the nickname, he reacted with surprise at being called a moocher, but the knight said he was interested in the man Ali supported and Fanatica trained. With a quick movement, he revealed a card with the black rose symbol. He revealed himself as a fan club member, asking Inori to teach him the art of seduction. Bowing, he asked to become his disciple, leaving Fana shocked. Meanwhile, various sweets and desserts waited on the table. While the men talked, Fana took the opportunity to eat the desserts. Smiling, Inori explained his technique to his new disciple, Mask. Watching them, Aaliyah commented that it was good to make friends of the same gender. Fana asked if she was really friends with the one she called an imp. Looking at the priestess, Aaliyah confirmed that yes, they were friends. Fana stared at her for a moment, analyzing her words. Then she asked about the dagger, wanting to know where Aaliyah got it. Without answering, Aaliyah just observed her with a slightly mysterious smile. Fana continued, staring at the girl with a serious, curious expression. Aaliyah revealed the dagger was a proposal, surprising Fana. Fana commented that Aaliyah must know the meaning, which made her embarrassed. Inori called Mask, saying it was time to go. He complained about the report. Saying goodbye, Fana said it was nice talking to her there that day. With a gentle smile, Aaliyah wished them a safe trip back. Fana and Mask walked away together down the street at sunset. Watching them leave, Inori commented it had been a long day, and Aaliyah laughed. From afar, Mask watched the sunset, thinking about the adventurer Kiri he met. He admitted he couldn't figure out what kind of person he was. Smiling, Aaliyah said her goodbyes. She mentioned needing to finish an order and hurried off down the street. As he watched her go, he realized she hadn't actually been free all day. He reached his door, slid the key into the lock, and turned it. Exhausted, he braced himself to finally enter his room. Suddenly, he sensed a strange presence inside the dark room. He froze at the door, silent, trying to assess the situation. A voice spoke up, praising his sharp perception for sensing her. Wondering whose voice was in his head, he heard an invitation to talk. He opened the door to find a mysterious figure. A woman sat by the window, calmly watching the sunset. Looking his way, she introduced herself as Fluss, saying it was a pleasure. He was confused, wondering exactly whose voice was echoing in his mind. She noted that he'd sensed her from outside, yet knew nothing of spirit magic. Taking a seat, she asked what he did know about it. Apparently, he was the talk of the town. She offered to teach him spirit magic, adding with a smile that she could teach him about herself too. Holding out her hand, she asked him to join her on the bed. Suddenly, he was yanked forward and thrown onto the mattress before he could react. She straddled him, their faces inches apart. She found it interesting that he remained calm even with her pouncing on him. He looked up at her, commenting on her beauty and attractiveness. Reaching out, he said he wasn't a man to refuse an offer. With a quick movement, he tried to use a special ability. He prepared his manipulation magic to take control of her mind, shouting that no one could avoid his surprise attack at close range. But she just smiled, claiming she'd caught him, and reversed his attack. She leaned in and kissed him, leaving him completely shocked. Instantly, he was transported away, appearing in a grassy field. Looking around, he wondered where he was and what had happened. She revealed that he was currently inside her mind. Flying closer, she explained that everyone possesses an inner dimension. At her gesture, roots sprouted and wrapped around his body. Holding him fast, she declared she could control everything here and do whatever she pleased. She threatened to strip him naked, surprising him. Immobilized, he felt his body reacting to the roots against his skin. Smiling, she asked if it felt good and continued to taunt him. Then she transformed, revealing a more ethereal, powerful form. She revealed her plan. She would make his very soul desire her. Trapped, He gritted his teeth, trying to resist her power. Sensing his resistance, she brought her face close to his with a curious look. She questioned why he stopped, asking if he wanted to maintain his innocence. Looking into his eyes, she suggested he was afraid of making connections. Turning his face away, he told her to shut up, trying to deny her words. But she realized it wasn't fear, it was something else entirely. Suddenly, a strange, dark substance began to emerge behind her. Surprised by the raw power, she stared at the manifestation, not understanding what was happening. The substance violently broke the roots holding him. It crept along the ground toward her like a crawling shadow. Then it surged up and covered her mouth, silencing her completely. Yelling at her to shut up, he revealed himself as the source of that power. She wondered if he was corrupting her mental world with his power. Watching the darkness spread, she couldn't understand how a human soul could achieve this. Free from his bonds, he revealed that he too was an expert in control. Scene change. Aaliyah noticed the bedroom door was unlocked. Announcing her return, she lectured that he should always keep the door closed. But upon entering, she saw Fluss on top of Inori on the bed. With his mouth covered, he tried to assure her that everything was fine. Aaliyah stood frozen, not understanding the scene, just watching the two together. Gripping her dagger, she debated whether to attack or retreat. The small creature escaped his lips and tried to flee quickly. Hitting the floor, she returned to her original form, totally confused. He then forcefully spat, sending her tumbling away. The little fairy cowered on the floor, terrified. Crying, she revealed she had been ordered to get close to him and lower his guard. Through tears, she said he fought back and dominated her, revealing herself as Sylph. He asked if she could go around telling everyone everything, and she replied that he was the one who ordered it. Holding the small fairy, he questioned if this supreme goddess was the same one from the church. He realized the goddess had come after him very quickly. With a serious look, he ordered her to tell him everything she knew about the goddess. The little fairy trembled with fear at his command. Yet with a defiant look, she claimed she was a noble spirit and wouldn't talk. He said he could force her, but he had a better idea. She realized he knew nothing about spirit magic and thought she could deceive him. But suddenly she panicked, saying she couldn't use her magic anymore. Later, sitting in the forest, he and Aaliyah talked with the little fairy. He asked if she was admitting to being useless, and she told him to shut up. Clasping her hands, she blamed his stupid control ability. He wondered why his control was working on her, a living being. Even without understanding it, he decided to accept that the ability worked for now. He asked where he could find spirits, and she replied that they were everywhere. She revealed they were nearby, which was how she found him. Looking serious, he realized they could spy on him using spirit magic. He asked her to use her magic so they could see them. With a flash, her magic revealed several small spirits in the forest. Surprised, they observed the spirits, and she confirmed the magic worked. Aaliyah praised the fairy, saying she was amazing for being able to do that. A little embarrassed, the fairy agreed that she really was amazing. She explained she could suppress the spirits so no one would detect the magic. Hearing the explanation, he remained silent, processing the new information. He and Aaliyah agreed that the ability was very useful and praised the fairy again. Aaliyah then revealed that she had learned to use a new power from the fairy. As Aaliyah manipulated the power, the fairy suggested the name Black Wind for the ability. Analyzing it, she noted it looked like a shadow floating in the air. Glancing sideways, he watched Aaliyah's new ability closely. With a smile, he said that this new skill was going to be very useful indeed. A dark power explodes in the heart of the forest, obliterating everything around it. The force of the impact snaps nearby trees in half. Emerging from the smoke, Inori surveys the aftermath alongside Aaliyah and Sylph. Before them lies a giant insect, utterly defeated by the devastating attack. Impressed, Aaliyah calls it incredible and asks if she can control that power as well. Inori conjures a sphere of energy, mentioning he liked the dark wind. Surprised, Sylph says it was amazing. She didn't know he could use it that way. She explains that the creature only survived disintegration because it's from the demon world. Looking at the fallen insect, she notes that place is its only natural habitat. Inori asks if this is unusual, and Aaliyah confirms it is. Thinking for a moment, he likens it to a fish out of water, seeing one for the first time. Aaliyah then asks Sylph if she's ever been to the demon world. Pointing around, Sylph says the forest spirits are all agitated. He replies that he can see them, but doesn't quite understand what's happening. Explaining the situation, Aaliyah reveals that these lands are protected by the Templar Knights. She adds that she understands the fright, since a creature like that shouldn't be here. Silently, Inori continues to observe the destroyed forest around him. He wonders which hole that creature could have crawled out of. From afar, glowing eyes beneath a hood watch their every move. Standing on a cliff, The hooded figure continues to watch them from the shadows. Scene change. The blacksmith announces that the blade he requested is ready. Holding the new sword, Inori is impressed to see its detailed stats. Aaliyah comments that the weapon seems easy for him to handle. Handing over payment, he mentions hearing about the move and says he'll miss the place. The blacksmith confirms that Inori is his last customer before relocating. With a smile, he hopes to meet him again in another city. Saying goodbye at the door, the man wishes for them to cross paths again in the future. After leaving the shop, the two walk together down the city street. Aaliyah is happy he had coins, but he claims it was just luck. Surprised, she says he should go thank Fana for giving him the money. He replies it wasn't exactly like that, since she practically forced him to take it. Irritated, Aaliyah yells at him to stop making excuses and just go. Scene change. Fana appears in a sacred place, offering her prayers. Taking a step, she walks through the main hall with calm seriousness. Opening a door, she finds Inori leaning against the wall, waiting. Holding his new sword, he watches her as she calls his name. Curious, she takes the sword from his hand to examine it better. Sitting on a bench, she says it's a great weapon, and he agrees. Looking at the sky, he points out that as she can see, it's not an artifact. Fana listens as he says he wasn't made to use those kinds of weapons. He adds that he'll never be able to use artifacts no matter how much he trains. With a slight smile, she just watches him finish venting. Fana then asks if he no longer wants to train with her. Complaining, he says he never liked it to begin with, surprising her. Inori explains he knows it's useless, so there's no reason to continue. He says he doesn't want to waste her time. Laughing heartily, Fana admits she already felt he'd never truly succeed. Then she promises to stay by his side until he gets strong. With no response, Inori just stares at her in complete silence. With a confident smile, she keeps looking directly at him. Closing his eyes for a moment, he calls her very stubborn. With no choice, he decides to resume the useless training, leaving her excited. Scene change. Inori analyzes a woman, declaring she's definitely a virgin. He immediately asks about another, claiming she must be a virgin too. Suddenly, Inori spits out his drink at the knight's comment. Laughing hard, he praises Mask's good instincts. Mask justifies himself by mentioning the church. It's revealed that the two have started going out drinking occasionally. Hearing Mask's explanation, Inori falls silent for a moment. He then points to someone, asking for Mask's opinion on them. Just then, Aaliyah approaches, prompting Inori to praise her elegant and powerful walk. Continuing his analysis, he wonders aloud if she's a virgin or not. Noticing the conversation, Aaliyah turns toward them with a warning glare. Behind them, a man comments that they are the duo who sits around judging everyone. Aaliyah asks if they want to get thrown out, making them both apologize instantly. Bowing, she apologizes to everyone, guaranteeing it won't happen again. After the commotion, Inori asks if Mask can really hang out with him like this. Mask explains he's monitoring his relationship and that Fanatica is busy right now. Confused, Inori asks about the test, and Mask is surprised she didn't tell him. In a flashback, Mask explains this city is a destination for knights up for promotion. It's a deadly trial, he says, and she chose to see an outsider. Because of this, Mask notes that her actions certainly raised many suspicions. Understanding the situation, Inori concludes that's why she came to the city. Aaliyah asks if she trained, and Mask confirms she is in the final test. Suddenly, the tavern doorbell rings, announcing someone's arrival. All the bar patrons begin whispering among themselves, looking towards the entrance. Footsteps are heard as a figure approaches the center of the room. Standing by the door, an elderly hooded adventurer watches the group silently. Smiling, Inori says he arrived just in time and asks for some help. Looking at him, the man says he can see Inori caused the mess himself. Inori complains he has no honor, while Mask apologizes for the trouble. Deciding to leave, Mask announces he needs to go now. Turning to Aaliyah, he promises to apologize again at their next meeting. Inori then asks the man to apologize to him too for what happened. Advising the boy, the man says it would be wise not to befriend Mask. Inori replies that the tavern folks seem to hate the man more than they hate Mask. Raising his hand, he signals the waitress that they are ready to order. From the shadows, Sylph asks how he can remain so calm near that man. She feels an overwhelming urge to flee from him even while hidden. Cowering, she explains that everyone's instincts scream to avoid him. Terrified, she warns that he detected her presence, shocking Inori. The man reveals he sees Inori's new high-level spirit friend. Seeing his reaction, the adventurer says there's no need to be so defensive. In a serious tone, he states that he feels the time has finally come. He reveals he knows about Inori's power to see others' abilities. Aaliyah, not understanding the conversation, just watches the tension between the two men. Using his ability, Inori focuses his eye to discover the truth about the man. His identity is revealed, Inyoa, the powerful heretic demon lord. Reading the information, he realizes that this man is a demon lord. A cold sweat begins to run down his face in shock. Completely paralyzed, he can barely process what he just discovered. Aaliyah noticed his reaction and froze. completely confused about what was happening. Ignoa then suggested they talk somewhere private, away from prying eyes. His eye gleaming, he called the boy by his full name, Inori Takafuji. Aaliyah was shocked. She couldn't understand how this stranger knew his name. Standing up from the table, Inori agreed to the proposal and told him to lead the way. Aaliyah immediately offered to come along, begging him to let her accompany them. Refusing her help, he stated he was going alone and ordered her not to follow. He reinforced that it was an order, making her back down instantly. Ignoa suggested the forest. Inori said it didn't matter where, just that they should go. Worried, she could only watch helplessly as the two walked out of the tavern together. The scene shifts to the forest, where the two walked among the trees in silence. Stopping, Ignoa announced that this spot should be far enough. He repeated that Inori didn't need to be so defensive around him. Facing the demon lord, Inori stared back with a serious expression. Still tense, he remained silent, waiting for the man's next move. Understanding the situation, Ignoa remarked that it was natural for him to be defensive. Suddenly, a massive burst of energy exploded, surrounding the entire area around them. The force of the magic pulled Sylph screaming out of the shadows. Ignoa apologized, saying he didn't want any spirits spying on their conversation. Removing his hood, he announced that now it was just the two of them alone. Suddenly, pointed animal ears appeared in place of his human ones. Revealing his face, he asked for Inori's first impression of his appearance. Analyzing the ears, Inori wondered if he was a beastman. Looking closer, he noticed the man also had distinctly scaly horns. Furthermore, he observed his long ears and very thick hair. Shocked, Inori said he looked like a mixture of several different races. Ignoa agreed, revealing that he also had a tail and had already lost count of the races involved. Describing himself as a chimera homunculus, he noted the confusion on the boy's face. Showing his tail, he explained that he used to look like any ordinary demon. He transformed into this after his second reincarnation, revealing his true power. Surprised, Inori revealed that he was also a reincarnate, and this was his third life. Ignoa explained that he was born as a demon of that world, the antepenultimate demon lord. In a flashback, he recalled his life as the demon lord with a smile. He recounted that he could do whatever he wanted, killing everyone until he became sovereign. In that life, he said he had everything, with a routine filled with excitement. After killing demons, he moved on to other races without hesitation. Even surrounded by coins, he still felt victorious. He remembered killing the dwarves and looting all their treasures. Soon after, he burned the elf forests and attacked the other races. He thought he would smile and be happy forever with all that freedom. But then he realized that wasn't exactly what he was looking for. Standing amidst the destruction, he revealed that he was actually looking for happiness. Closing his hand into a fist, he said he sought it until the day he died. Shocked, Inori asked if he really died back then. Ignoa confirmed that he did, of natural causes, because no one could kill him. He then recounted that it was in that moment that he found her. With a smile, she welcomed him to a completely different place. He then recognized her as the goddess, in a totally unknown dimension. Listening to the story, Inori wondered if the goddess was who he imagined her to be. Then Ignoa explained that she presented herself as the supreme deity of that world. With clasped hands, the goddess rebuked him for his past actions. She warned him that he had gone too far with his cruelty. Soon after, she took his memories, his magic power, and all his strength. Along with his talent, she ended up taking everything else he had. After the punishment, he said he was reborn as a baby in the abandoned world. Surprised, Inori asked about the world, and Ignoa explained the name. He revealed that it is a world completely abandoned by the gods. Talking about his life there, he said he was raised in a common, simple family. Without many merits, he worked hard to survive, learning to humble himself. Later, he got a job and married a very gentle woman. He said their son was beautiful, and his life was perfectly ordinary. With his family, he lived a simple and happy life in that world. Finishing the story, he closed his eyes for a moment, remembering the past. Looking up at the sky, Ignoa said that it had been a happy life. While listening, Inori heard that he had coveted power and wealth as the demon lord. He realized then that he had known nothing about true happiness until that point. That is why he revealed that, this time, he wants to make others happy. Inori asked who others meant, and Ignoa replied that it wasn't everyone. Raising his fist, he declared that he wanted to achieve what his body was capable of. Asking if he was going to kill, Inori heard Ignoa deny it immediately. Reminding him that he is a homunculus, Ignoa explained the composition of his body. He revealed he was made from the flesh of 6 different races. Because of this, he inherited traits from the races that are constantly fighting across the continent. Processing the information, Inori just continued listening in silence. Ignoa asked if he knew the world, and Inori admitted he didn't. Remembering the tavern, He mentioned how everyone inside avoided him. He then explained that the goddesses had sown discord among the races. Not fully understanding, Inori just listened about the conflicts of that world. He warned that Inori would soon learn about the constant struggles and discrimination. Inori then asked how he planned to save these people from suffering. Lighting a cigar, he revealed his plan. He is going to destroy the world with Inori's help. Hearing the proposal, Inori just kept staring at him without showing any reaction. Ignoa said he would have done it all alone, but then Inori just suddenly appeared. Questioning his intent, Inori asked if he was trying to recruit him by force. Denying the idea, he said he had no desire to force him into anything. Inori then asked what he had meant earlier by an advance reward. Ignoa explained that since Inori will bring destruction anyway, he is effectively a collaborator. For that purpose, he told Inori to just keep living and ruining other people's lives. After a moment, the two stared at each other in silence in the middle of the forest. Shrugging, Inori replied that he was going to do that anyway. With a smile, he commented that he wouldn't mind receiving more rewards. Taken by surprise, Ignoa was left speechless by the boy's audacity. Calling him greedy, he said it was fair payment for having made him nervous. Remembering the tavern, Inori gives Aaliyah a strict order: do not follow him. He emphasizes that this is a command, leaving her stunned. Though worried, she hears him say he doesn't care where they go. As they leave, she reaches out, unable to act. Feeling helpless, she slowly lowers her arm, watching them fade into the distance. On the city outskirts, Aaliyah sits on the ground, waiting. Underneath a tree, she replays his order in her mind. She reflects that she's never seen him that agitated before. Curled up, she thinks that in the end, he just treated her like a tool. Unbeknownst to her, shadow creatures descend from the branches above, ready to strike. Suddenly, a voice asks what she's doing out here alone. Aaliyah looks over, surprised to see Fana. With one quick strike, Fana obliterates the creatures, leaving Aaliyah in shock. Maintaining a serious gaze, she drives off the remaining beasts, sending them fleeing. Aaliyah thanks her for the help, and Fanatica tells her to just call her Fana. Fana warns Aaliyah to be careful. The area isn't safe. Smiling, she notices something is bothering Aaliyah and asks if it's about Kiri. Aaliyah tries to explain, but can't seem to find the right words. She gives up, claiming it's nothing, while Fana keeps watching her. Sighing, Fana remarks that she and Kiri are exactly the same. Surprised, Aaliyah stares blankly, not understanding her meaning. Suddenly, Fana strikes a nearby tree, shattering it with the sheer force of the impact. Knocked to the ground, Aaliyah yells, asking what kind of madness this is. Ready for a fight, Fana says she wants to test her strength in a training session. She claims she's going to help Aaliyah clear her mind, but Aaliyah retorts that it's none of her business. Spinning her weapon rapidly, Fana prepares for the next strike. She attacks again swiftly, forcing Aaliyah to dodge at the very last second. Fana praises her reflexes, while Aaliyah screams for her to stop. Changing the subject, Fana asks if Aaliyah believed in the gods when she was younger. Still confused, Aaliyah simply answers no, not understanding the question's purpose. In a flashback, Fana remembers her mother praying to a statue daily, though she never pressured Fana to join. She reveals that demons attacked her village, and her mother died protecting her. Surrounded by the creatures, Fana gave up trying to run and accepted her fate. Praying for the first time, she begged to be reunited with her mother in heaven. Just then, a divine figure appeared and saved her from the horde. Fana admits she doesn't know who saved her, surprising Aaliyah. Smiling, she explains that day made her believe in the gods. She adds that she's no longer a helpless child and can save others now. Advising Aaliyah, she tells her to have faith and save Kiri too. Aaliyah replies that she did have faith, she could help him with his problems. Fana shouts at her to stay by his side, no matter what. Yelling back, Aaliyah insists she wanted to, but had no choice in the matter. Fana slaps her across the face to snap her out of it. Worried, Aaliyah asks if Fana is okay after taking that hit back. Having received the blow, Fana turns her face silently for a moment. With a bloody nose, she praises the punch, saying Aaliyah is finally being honest. Spitting slightly, she falls back, declaring she's happy about this. Now lying in Aaliyah's lap, Aaliyah calls Fana a very bizarre person. Confessing her jealousy, Aaliyah reveals she felt Fana was too close to Kiri. Smiling, Aaliyah comments that Fana uses force even to console people. Fana just lies there looking up, listening to the confession. Aaliyah thanks her, and Fana jokes about feeling the thorn in her advice. That night in her room, Aaliyah waits by a bunk bed. Inori suddenly appears upside down, making her scream in fright. Dropping to the floor, he claims it was the fastest way here. Smiling, he mentions he gathered a lot of information to share later. Aaliyah looks at him and comments that it seems nothing major actually happened. He asks if she was worried, and Aaliyah admits she was. She says it would be too easy if he just died and provided a happy ending. Reflecting, he notes they don't even know if his death would truly free her. After a moment, he just keeps staring at her in total silence. Sitting by the window, Aaliyah looks out at the night with a faint smile. She asks why he went quiet, but Inori replies it was nothing. He then invites her to participate in a test to satisfy his curiosity about her. Although she agrees to help, she asks why he's smiling so strangely. He replies that she'll see soon, leaving Aaliyah very suspicious. The scene shifts. A large door slowly opens in a new location. Sir Raven apologizes for calling so late. Mask listens silently to what the captain has to say. Asking how he may serve, he's told it's nothing urgent. Sir Raven then reveals he wants to know if the traitor daughter has been located. Regretfully, Mask informs him that he needs more time. The Templar Knight symbol is prominently displayed on his attire. Raven orders him to act quickly and recruit more female knights for the test. He adds that Mask's presence is vital to their cause. Hand on chest, Mask swears it will be done in God's name. Alone in a room later, standing by a table, Mask suddenly slams his fist down in frustration. Drumming his fingers, he seems restless with the entire situation. He grinds his teeth, dwelling on his conversation with the captain. Angrily, he whispers the name Chris, staring off to the side. Looking out the window, he vows to find that person no matter what. That night, a dark presence approaches the city's grand castle. A hooded figure emerges from the darkness, leading an army of strange creatures. With a serious gaze, the figure scans the horizon, ready to act. Dissatisfied, the figure declares that this is not yet enough for their plans. They order the insects to grow in both size and number. With a gesture, the figure commands the monster army to devour the forest. The scene shifts, showing a staff as the next target is announced. The next day, the sun was beating down hard on the city rooftops. Back in the room, Aaliyah asked if he always slept this late into the afternoon. Carrying some shopping bags, Aaliyah explained that he's slow even when awake, so he sleeps a lot. Sylph realized the afternoon was the best time to get away from him. Arriving at a cafe, Sylph was surprised by Aaliyah's choice. Confused, she stared at what was placed in front of her. Surprised by the cake, Sylph asked what it was. Smiling, Aaliyah said she loved this shop, but Sylph warned her she wouldn't eat. Disbelieving, Aaliyah said she'd never met a woman who didn't like cake. Sylph explained that spirits don't need to eat like humans. Aaliyah asked if she had a favorite food, but Sylph denied it immediately. Surprised, Aaliyah admitted she didn't know that detail. Seeing her reaction, Sylph said she just thought Aaliyah might want to taste it. Suddenly, she changed her mind and said she would try it, surprising Aaliyah. Clarifying, she said, spirits can eat if they want to. It just isn't obligatory. With her mouth full, Sylph tried to explain that spirits are like plants. After swallowing, she kept staring fixedly at the piece of cake. Blushing, she seemed amazed by the flavor she had just tasted. Enthusiastic, she said she had never eaten anything with such incredible flavor. Excited, Aaliyah offered another cake, saying the cheesecake was also good. Sylph described the taste as a delicious symphony of different flavors. Lying on the plate, she seemed to have eaten too much after trying everything. Aaliyah commented that they ate too much, and Sylph said humans know how to make good things. Putting a finger to her lips, she asked to keep this a secret from Inori. Still lying down, Sylph just listened as Aaliyah suggested they return again. She then commented that Aaliyah was different from him, kinder and gentler. Agreeing, Aaliyah asked why she stayed with him since he tormented her. With clenched fists, Aaliyah declared that her goal was to defeat him one day. She revealed that Inori had saved her life once, despite everything. Completing the story, she said that in exchange, he bound her to his will. She explained that she was grateful he saved her life, but she warned that she would stay with him until she could surpass him one day. Sitting on the plate, Sylph just listened without saying a word. She then commented that their relationship was quite bizarre based on what she heard. Suddenly, a shadow portal opened on the cafe floor. A shadowy creature emerged, asking Aaliyah where the master was. Introducing them, Aaliyah heard the creature complain about being called Fenny. Sylph laughed and called him a puppy, making the creature threaten to devour her. Explaining his whereabouts, Aaliyah said Inori could be in bed or in the shadows. The creature then asked Aaliyah to accompany him to the forest in his place. Bluntly, the creature revealed that the place could no longer be called a forest. The scene changed, showing the place completely destroyed and lifeless. On the ground, only scattered animal bones could be seen everywhere. Arriving at the site, Aaliyah and Sylph were frightened by the scene of destruction. Looking at the horizon, Aaliyah realized the entire forest had simply vanished. Shocked, Aaliyah yelled that the trees, the grass, and everything else were gone. The creature warned that this was just one of many destroyed forests. Sylph realized that even the low-level spirits had disappeared from there too. She explained that humans couldn't scare off beings of that type so easily. Creating a pair of wings, Aaliyah shouted that they needed to investigate what happened. Then Aaliyah took flight, saying they needed more information about the attack. Flying over the site, the two continued to investigate the trail of destruction. The creature asked if Aaliyah could see anything from up high. She responded that she could see fresher tracks just ahead. Putting the information together, they determined the direction the entity was heading. Flying a bit further, Sylph said she heard spirit screams in that direction. Suddenly, Aaliyah shouted that she could see something moving beyond the hills. In the distance, a huge army of giant insects moved in a single direction. In the middle of the horde, the creatures advanced at impressive speed. Leading the attack, the larger insects cleared the way for the smaller ones. Running non-stop, they formed a cloud of dust wherever they passed. Seeing the creatures, Aaliyah recognized them as the bugs they had seen in the forest before. Scared, Sylph warned they would be seen and told them to fly lower. Descending, Aaliyah wondered if this was an uncontrolled frenzy of demons. She remembered this is a rare phenomenon that happens every few years. Noticing the direction, she understood the horde was going to a specific place. In a flashback, Aaliyah remembered the people of the city going about their normal routine. She remembered befriending the residents of Lagoon. With a serious expression, she prepared to protect all those people. She explained that the city had repelled attacks before, but now it wasn't prepared. Worried, Sylph shouted that they needed to warn Inori about what was happening. Agreeing, Aaliyah told the two of them to find him and bring him there. The creature then asked what she would do while they looked for him. She explained that Inori is hiding his abilities and won't defend the city. With no time to ask for help, she realized she needed to act fast, alone. Elsewhere, the first princess and Nala appeared together in a flashback. Determined, Aaliyah announced she would try to hold back the army's advance alone. The creature said it had measured their strength and she had no chance. Ignoring the warning, Aaliyah charged toward the horde at full speed. With determination, she shouted that she was no longer the helpless princess from before. Noticing her approach, one of the creatures stopped running and stared at her. Preparing to attack, the giant insect showed its sharp teeth. Terrified, Sylph screamed that the enemies had already spotted their presence. Opening its mouth, the creature lunged at Aaliyah, ready to devour her. She then yelled that she was tired of just sitting around and watching everything. Suddenly, a wave of energy crushed the bug, saving Aaliyah from the attack. Fenrir explained that her mana overflows, making a sneak attack impossible. On the ground, the creature destroyed the insect's remains with its claws. He then praised her bravery in protecting others, even though she was inexperienced. Revealing his full form, he warned that he couldn't maintain it for long. Even so, he decided to fight, having once had lands and kin to protect himself. Surprised, Aaliyah noticed Fenrir had grown, and he said it was his first time doing so. Ignoring the conversation, one of the insects approached to attack them without hesitation. With a single blow of her sword, Aaliyah cut the creature in half. Impressed by the scene, Fenrir praised her incredible demonstration of skill. Excited, she accepted his offer and called on him to fight together. With a screech, the creature lunges to start the battle. Fenrir roars back, ready to face the horde of giant insects. The creatures stare him down, steeling themselves for his attack. A giant centipede descends from the hilltop, heading straight for Fenrir to strike. Fenrir advises Aaliyah to avoid getting surrounded and focus on thinning their numbers. She agrees to the strategy, readying herself to enter the fray at full force. They charge together, running headlong into the enemies without hesitation. Claws and sword flash as they begin tearing through every insect in their path. Watching from a distance, Sylph is awestruck by their battle prowess. Fenrir warns Aaliyah to make sure they're dead. They keep moving otherwise. Getting the message, Aaliyah prepares to finish off a beast in front of her. With a precise strike, she cleaves the insect in two, utterly destroying it, but she notices the sword is draining her mana faster than anticipated. Switching to magic, she conjures spheres of air and fires them at the insects. The attack lands squarely, exploding the head of one beast. But Aaliyah is surprised to see another enemy repel her magic with ease. Fenrir explains their carapaces are magic resistant and tells her to stick to the sword. He mentions remembering the human who wielded that blade before her. Clenching his paw, he admits her memory fills him with dread. A flashback shows Ephiana using the sword with absolute mastery and control. Fenrir explains the difference lies in how the two women utilize the blade. Aaliyah realizes he means the Knight Commander, Ephiana Eche. Seeing an opening, a giant insect lunges to attack Aaliyah from behind. She realizes Fenrir stayed in his smaller form to conserve energy. Taking his cue, she channels mana at the precise moment of impact. At the same time, Fenrir leaps and crushes the giant centipede's head with a bite. Aaliyah fights on, exhausted and panting from the intense battle. She wonders how many more strikes her remaining mana will allow. She expected many enemies, but this horde seems endless. Suddenly, she feels her mana draining rapidly in the midst of combat. Seeing her fatigue, Fenrir asks if she's already reached her limit. Letting out a scream, she refuses to yield and keeps fighting. Then, a strange sound startles Sylph and even Fenrir. Without hesitation, Aaliyah bites into a chunk of one of the fallen insects on the ground. Announcing she's recharging her mana, she continues chewing on the beast's flesh. Horrified by the scene, Sylph screams that Aaliyah is eating the enemy. Fenrir laughs, noting that she drains blood to replenish her mana. Fighting in unison, the pair continues to carve a path through the monster horde. Unnoticed from afar, a hooded figure watches the entire battle. Extending a hand, the mysterious person begins controlling the creatures with their power. With a subtle gesture, the figure clenches their hands, finalizing the command. Suddenly, all the insects retreat from the main battle. Instead, they swarm towards Aaliyah. Confused by the sudden shift in behavior, Aaliyah is taken by surprise. The creatures begin crawling all over her body, completely immobilizing her. Fenrir shouts, telling her to keep moving to escape the deadly trap. Desperate, Sylph yells for Aaliyah to use her wings and fly to safety. Suddenly, a creature lunges at her with ferocious intent. With a single blow, the monster slices her arm. Aaliyah looks desperate. Fenrir screams her name in panic, but she is struck hard by another enemy. Thrown aside, she collides violently with the flank of a giant beast. In despair, Sylph screams Aaliyah's name and casts a dark wind. The black magic envelops Aaliyah, protecting her and startling the insect. Ice spikes erupt from the ground, trapping the creature in place. Sylph's magic pierces the insect's head, saving Aaliyah just in time. Simultaneously, Fenrir charges in and crushes the enemy's skull with a massive bite. Following the combined attack, Aaliyah collapses to the ground, utterly exhausted and wounded. Fenrir warns that he can't hold them off any longer. They need to retreat. Surprised by her own actions, Sylph admits she cast the saving spell without thinking. Aaliyah lies on the ground, seemingly unable to rise after the brutal battle. Suddenly, a person appears looking down at her, calling her name. Seeing Amanda before her, Aaliyah falls into a trance-like state. She lies there, watching the figure slowly approach. With a smile, Amanda notes that Aaliyah ended up here too, dying a pathetic death. She accuses Aaliyah of abandoning her to survive alone in the forest. Aaliyah replies that she nearly lost her mind because of that incident. Still lying down, she lets out a faint laugh, staring fixedly at Amanda. Confused, Amanda asks the reason for her laughter. With great difficulty, Aaliyah pushes herself up from the ground. She states that the real Amanda would never speak to her like that. Grabbing her sword, Aaliyah admits she's happy to see her again regardless. Smiling, she prepares to fight the hallucination standing before her. The image of Amanda just stares back, emotionless. Asking for forgiveness, Aaliyah confesses she was too weak to protect her in the past. Turning her back on the vision, she vows to change and become stronger. From a distance, Sylph watches the scene, confused by Aaliyah's behavior. Snapping back to reality, Aaliyah finds herself surrounded by monsters as Sylph calls out to her. Fenrir demands she climb onto his back, warning they must retreat immediately. Instead, she leaps forward, launching herself straight into the attack. She unleashes a powerful blow, striking an insect with dark energy. The attack hits the creature's head with devastating force. Cleaving through several enemies at once, she carves a path through the horde. Fenrir is stunned by the newfound strength she's demonstrating. She screams at him to go, insisting she can still fight alone. Suddenly, Inori appears, questioning the value of her conviction if she just dies here. A dark, powerful energy begins to envelop her hand. Clenching her fist, she is surprised by the new power coursing through her body. Explaining the situation, Inori states that blood is what sustains vampires. Perched atop a monster, he commands her to treat the blood with respect,